Well, I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. Get over it, move on, because clearly it's just another new season in the NFL. The Eagles part ways with Darius Slay. For now. Maybe. Who knows? We'll get into it all today. Kincade Salciunas, Connor for John today. 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
I'm not a doctor. I have not examined Joel Embiid's knee. But you know that he's going to miss an extended period of time. You know he's done for the rest of the season. He could miss a lot of time next year. I mean, we're in March already.
This offseason, you look at that and you say, okay, well, he's not going to be able to be traded. I don't think this is the end of him being a part of this team.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Tuesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside Connor Thomas, who is in for John today and tomorrow. Connor, good morning.
Good morning.
League that never sleeps.
No,
that
honestly.
is the NFL. The city that never sleeps, that's old news. New York, New York. The league that never sleeps, the NFL. It is March 4th. Yesterday was March 3rd, and the team that won the Super Bowl less than a month ago has already made roster moves. They actually made a roster move like the day after the Super Bowl, or like 2 days after the Super Bowl, releasing one of their practice squad players. But the Eagles decided, or are expecting to, but they decided to release Darius Slay with the post-June 1st designation. So I'm going to read the tweet from Jeff Mclean just so that everybody has the details and knows what the Eagles' plan may or may not be. The release of Darius Slay saves them $4.3 million against the cap, and they're still on the hook for about $9.4 million. But when it comes to the cap space, $4.3 million is saved. He mentions that they have two obvious internal options to replace Slay. That's Cooper DeJean or Keely Ringo. DeJean could start on the outside in base and move inside of the slot in nickel personnel. So when they do have the extra cornerback, he would then slide in the inside. But when it's just that normal base defense, it would be Mitchell and DeJean. Your first and second round picks, your rookies from last year, your top 5 finalists for Defensive Rookie of the Year's nominees, they will be on the outside. Mclean mentions that they also have to decide on Isaiah Rodgers, who could still be a candidate, and they're not ruling out a return of Darius Slay. So the reporting that I saw from a lot of national media members is that Slay does have options. He may want to return and stay home. You saw his wife on social media yesterday express her emotions. She's sad that the decision happened, but the Eagles did this with Darius Slay just 2 seasons ago. So it's not like this would be something new where they release him for cap relief and then bring him back on a restructured contract. But the initial news is that Darius Slay is gone. There's a chance that he is not back next season. I am a big Darius Slay fan. You've heard me talk about it for even before this show started, Kincade and Salciunas, about a year ago. I was one of the more defenders of Darius Slay. When the Eagles lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs 2 years ago, and it just seemed like the cool thing to do to rip Darius Slay, when there was 8 other things that went wrong in that game, and that mirrored play that they ran, the Chiefs did to score 2 touchdowns. I blame more on Jonathan Gannon for not being able to alert his defense more so than Darius Slay. I think Darius Slay has been an exceptional Eagle. I will not run and hide from my opinion of hating the podcast. Clearly, the players didn't mind it. I just thought it was too much, especially last year when he was playing okay. The defense was not. I still remember the 49ers game when they got obliterated 2 seasons ago, and he goes on the podcast and does the whole, I played well. Everybody else was bad, but I played well. Like, I hate that kind of stuff. You're right. Say that on your own time, not behind a microphone. Now, clearly, it doesn't rub players the wrong way if he's then voted to be a captain again the following season, the season they end up winning the Super Bowl. But other than that, the stories that you actually hear is how great of a leader he is, how great he was with the young corners in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, also Keely Ringo. Very much James Harden-esque, where a young player says nothing but good things, even though on the outside the perception is, oh, man, James Harden, he can't be that good of a teammate. All he wants to do is go to strip clubs. The young players love him. Same with Darius Slay. Every young player speaks glowingly of Darius Slay. He's a Super Bowl champion. So in my eyes, he is a great Eagle. Is he a legendary Eagle? No. But he's a great Eagle and a guy that I thought was consistently good ever since they acquired him years back. And so I remember Darius Slay in highways. There's a lot of people that don't like him. I don't know why. I thought he's been a consistent professional on the field. Podcast stuff, story for another day, but it didn't bother anybody clearly.
Yeah, absolutely not in the locker room. They voted him captain multiple times. He came here as a veteran, and we know the Eagles' track record of acquiring veteran corners. There's some hits. There's some major misses when you look back at the Philadelphia Eagles franchise history at that position. And Darius Slay was absolutely a hit. This dude came here from Detroit and made an immediate impact in the secondary. He was part of that grouping that changed the trajectory of the Eagles post-2017-2018 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of not just this past year winning one, but in 22 getting there and playing at an all-pro level. So there's no way to debate the impact that Darius Slay had on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if I want him back because a restructured contract this time around, like they did the last time this type of situation happened, well, he's a couple years older. What does that look like at this point in his career? Can you build out a contract that he's willing to agree to that doesn't keep him here too long to the point where you're now paying a guy that's on the back end? He was banged up a lot this year, so you got to be careful.
He was, but he didn't look old. He was exceptional this year. There was probably like 2 or 3 plays where he allowed a deep ball downfield. Other than that, he was spectacular. And I had a guy on social media yesterday saying, "Yeah, but I'd rather have a guy that has more interceptions." First off, interceptions don't just happen.
Yeah, then cut Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, because Quinyon Mitchell had 0 interceptions throughout the regular season. Cooper DeJean didn't have any interceptions, right, throughout the season until the Super Bowl. Right.
Yeah.
So then cut all the players because they don't intercept passes very much. You know why he also doesn't have many opportunities to intercept passes? They don't throw his way. He's been spectacular. And I'm sorry to do a Darius Slay swan song show here, but I thought he was really good. I would love for him to come back on. It would be a 1-year deal. He wants to play 1 more year. So it's not like you're signing him to a 2 or 3 year deal. He wants to play 1 more season. I would welcome him back in a heartbeat as long as it is cap friendly. But even if it pushes the cap a little bit, dude, I didn't see his play drop off last year. And I think, I'll say it, and I've been saying it over and over and over again, I think he was severely underrated by fans in this city. Forget the team for a second. I think fans in the city have severely underrated Darius Slay. And there were still people yesterday when the news came out that were like, all right, see you later. It's like, really? You think it's that easy to just move on from a guy who's been a Pro Bowl a lot in his time here with Philadelphia? I don't think this is a decision that's just kind of easy to make other than people looking at the age and being worried about that. But he didn't look like a guy whose play was falling off last year.
No, he got banged up a little bit. That's all I'm talking about is the body. It's not so much the performance. It's his ability to be on the field. And I'm not questioning it. I'm just saying, there were trends of okay, this guy's old. And that happens to everybody.
Yeah,
nobody beats
course.
Father Time. But the other thing you got to think about, too, when you're bringing up, people underrating Darius Slay, and this is more with this past year's team, but the Eagles have been a pretty talented organization since he's been here. I think we're going to see this a lot with guys where there are just so many talented players on this team. There are some great guys that get almost lost in the shuffle. I was just thinking, where's Darius Slay as a top X player from this past Super Bowl team? And I don't know that I could make an argument he's outside the top 10. And that's crazy for a player of that magnitude. It says nothing about him and everything about the team.
No, it shows how good this team was.
But you need to keep those talented players in-house. And if they can bring him back on that 1-year deal where it's cap-friendly, I don't think anyone should be anti-Slay returning. But if he is gone, this could be a big loss because the backup pieces that you have to refill that position with, I don't have all that much faith in.
So we'll get into that coming up next. So Keely Ringo could be a candidate. We know that Cooper DeJean is obviously a candidate, but I already read you the tweet from Mclean that if they were a nickel personnel, he's going to the inside. He's not staying on the outside. And then there's the thought about whether or not Isaiah Rodgers comes back. And did you see enough to say, yeah, that's my second outside corner. I want that on every single play, every single down on a given week. So we'll talk about what's next for the Eagles if Darius Slay does indeed not come back. Are you okay if the Eagles continue to get younger? We'll discuss that coming up next as well. It is Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John today here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
My lineup has always been Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber. Castellanos, Stein.
Of Kincade Salciunas is presented by Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White, they're here for the pro.
It is 6:14 here on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Darius Slay expected to be released by the Eagles, saving about $4.3 million worth of cap space. I'm a big Darius Slay fan. I think he is severely underrated by a lot of fans in this city. I think a lot of it obviously has to do with the lack of interceptions. That's not necessarily on him. They play a bend but don't break style of defense and have since he's been here, right? With Jonathan Gannon, whatever the hell Sean Desai, Matt Patricia threw your way last year. And then, of course, now year one of Vic Fangio, even though there were a lot of turnovers eventually forced, teams weren't throwing his way. And that's why his interception totals are low compared to what he was doing in Detroit. Oh, by the way, he was also in his 30s when he played with the Eagles, so a little bit different. But I'm gonna be sad to see him go because I think he's been an exceptional player for the Eagles in his 5 years. By the way, can't believe it was 5 years with the Eagles. Are you okay if the Eagles, coming off of the Super Bowl victory, get younger? And younger from Darius Slay's standpoint to Keely Ringo. And I saw a tweet yesterday like, I'm all about Ringo. He's been in the incubator for the last 3 years. Like, I've seen Keely Ringo make some plays on the field. I've seen him get exposed on the field. He doesn't play enough for you to really know whether or not he can handle those duties. Isaiah Rodgers, I've seen him come into games when Darius Slay gets banged up and look pretty bad, but then I've seen him have a week of preparation and him look good. But it would be, and I'm not making the John Kincade joke here, it would be a gamble to bring in Isaiah Rodgers because now you're saying I saw enough in the very limited time where he was on the field to be my starting outside corner of my defending Super Bowl championship team.
Well, the upside on Rodgers is you've had him in-house.
Yeah.
So you see him during practice. You see the way he works during the week. You see him in meetings. So you get more information than other teams out there have. I don't think there's going to be this huge market for Isaiah Rodgers out there. So bringing him back could be easier than a player of his caliber deserves because he played behind a couple of really good corners.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He would be my preferred option over Keely Ringo. So I guess the answer to that then would be I don't want to see them get younger. This is already a very young team. I don't know how much younger they can get before the inexperience may play. Like, remember, everything feels great right now. But when we talk about the Washington Commanders, the number one or two thing, depending on how you look at their roster construction, that we mentioned is Jaden Daniels is going to have to deal with the sophomore slump. That's not just a quarterback thing.
Yeah.
Like, that exists for a bunch of young players. And Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, great year. Jalix Hunt, a little bit of rotational work. But these young players, we may see growing pains. They're not just going to be
because tape's out there. And, I said it to John last week. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm going, all right, there was one game that DeJean was pretty bad in. Oh, it was against Adam Thielen and the Carolina Panthers. What did they do? Let's try to find a way to expose him this game.
Exactly.
All right, that is just kind of what happens. It's natural in the NFL. I'm not saying that he's going to fall off to the point where he stinks. Like, it just might be where he's not one of the greatest slot corners ever because that's what it seemed like he was at times this season. So there might be a little bit of a sophomore slump. Or it's just the fact that they played 20 games this year.
Right.
They won the Super Bowl. They did not have a bye week in the playoffs. They had to take a bye week. They had to make their own bye week the last week of the regular season, which still complain about the rushing record. It was good for the Eagles to have that bye week, but still they played a lot of football this year. But that could also go to the point of maybe not bringing back older players because their bodies might not recover as quickly.
I'm not saying the same older players, but one of your questions was, do you want to see them get younger? You're losing potentially two captains of the defense this offseason in Brandon Graham and Darius Slay. I don't know who steps into those leadership roles, and they have candidates, but, I would like to see some veteran presence. You can't have everybody be 25.
No, you can't. And I would like to see Darius Slay back because I didn't see his play fall off at all last year. Do you want the Eagles to continue to get younger despite this team winning a Super Bowl last year? And off of that, at 610-632-0975, is it harder for you to see players leave after winning? Is there like an emotional attachment? We'll get into that coming up next. And the league that never sleeps. It's been less than a month since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They're already releasing players. There's already a deadline in the NFL today. Franchise tag day. We'll get into that next as well. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Good football start on a Tuesday morning here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released six-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is designated a post-June 1st transaction, which is going to save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's a buy for now, there are reports that, although it's goodbye for now, there is also reports that Slay and the Eagles could be reunited down the road. So we'll keep you updated on that front and everything surrounding the Birds all off-season long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119-102. They won't have much time to dwell on it as they're back in action tonight on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8. You can catch that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can hear that game on our sister station, WMMR. This update was brought to you by True Green. True Green, get a golf course quality lawn for less than you think. Sign up at truegreen.com. That's truegreen.com. True Green, the official lawn care treatment provider of the PGA Tour. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bill Colarulo.
Debo alone doesn't scare me. He played.
live here on Kincade and Salciunas. Connor in for John today and tomorrow. Johnny's on vacation for the week, but then Connor flies out Wednesday after the show. So Andrew DeCecco will do the entire show on Thursday. Amy Fadul will do the entire show on Friday. And speaking of Amy, she'll be in for the entire 9 o'clock hour today. So we're keeping Amy busy this week. It was nice. I saw her outside of the office the other day at the Sixers Gala.
Oh, nice.
And she obviously had a lot of one-on-ones with a lot of the players. So when we talk to her later today, I can't wait to ask her kind of what the vibe she got from a lot of people was. Now, obviously, it was a nice event. It was for the kids. But, you know, I saw Joe on the stage. He looked miserable. He probably had zero interest in being there. I imagine maybe the decision had already been made at that time because it was a day or two before the decision. When was the gala? Was it Thursday? Yes, so it was the day before the event. So maybe he probably already knew.
He probably already had the conversation with Josh Harris.
And they wanted to do the Friday news dump, right, to try to get out of the news cycle for a little bit. But we talked about it all day yesterday. So, yeah, we'll have Amy in for the entire 9 o'clock hour today. But for now, we're starting off the show talking about the decision to part ways with Darius Slay, a player that I think was severely underrated by a lot of Eagles fans. Are you okay with the Eagles getting younger is one of our questions for you to start at 610-632-0975, coming off a Super Bowl win. And so, yeah, Darius Slay's 34, so he's pushing it. So I get it. I understand why somebody would say I'd rather them get younger, but maybe not younger from 35 to 22.
No, like 34 to 28, 29 would be great.
Or you find a guy coming off his rookie deal, or you know that Howie is a king when it comes to the player that's going into their final year of their rookie deal. I imagine, I don't know if this option's in-house. I don't. Unless they like Keely Ringo more than most. They have more information on Keely Ringo than any of us do.
And they might, but I wouldn't feel comfortable turning over a starting outside corner slot to a guy like Keely Ringo right now. It's a question mark. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are uniquely set up for this offseason in that they have so many starters returning and so many starters locked down that they shouldn't go into this season with any question.
They don't have so many starters on defense coming back.
What do you mean?
I mean, Josh Sweat is gone. Depending on how you looked at it, Brandon Graham could be gone.
I got you.
And the other starter was Bryce Huff, who was anybody like thrilled. Milton Williams, depending on the down, is gone.
We're not counting Bryce Huff as a starter right out of the gate. Like we'll see how that plays out. And then Zach,
I'm saying, but Brandon Graham is gone, and so now Bryce Huff is his replacement, or it's Jalix Hunt.
Listen, I understand what you're saying, but you still have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, if the Kobe Dean's healthy, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Reed Blankenship, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Nolan
you got
Smith.
A lot of guys back.
Think about Super Bowl teams and how teams normally win it. You don't win it with young players very often. The Eagles are set up as maybe any Super Bowl winning team ever when it comes to the guys they're returning. And, oh, by the way, you have pretty much everybody on offense coming back.
Right.
So if the defense takes a step back. Like, the Philadelphia Eagles did not need the number one defense in the NFL to win the Super Bowl last year. It helped. It certainly helped.
Yeah.
But they put up 55 in the NFC Championship game and 40 in the Super Bowl. They could score. And that was with a Kellen Moore offense that we've talked about on the show being underwhelming based on the level that we believed it could be at.
Right.
I don't know if Kevin Patullo gets them there, but again, if the Eagles defense takes a slight step back, they can survive that because they were just damn better than everybody.
Well, they'll end up being a top 7 defense instead of number 1, and that'll still be very good. The other question I have for everybody at 610-632-0975, is it harder for you to see players leave after winning? Super Bowls, Stanley Cups, or even runs. Like, it doesn't have to be like actually winning the title, but like, getting deep. You're a Final Four team, and you see guys leave. Me being upset that Darius Slay is gone has nothing to do with this. I just think he's a very good player. Maybe I have little emotion.
That's possible.
Like, I think I express all my emotion toward my wife and my son. Like, I think they get all the emotion. I run-ins with the players, but I don't know them personally. All right, I'm not buddies with any of these guys. They don't want to be friends with me, and I don't blame them. when the Eagles won the Super Bowl back in 2017, I would have traded Nick Foles in a heartbeat because I never thought that you would get any sort of return higher than what was reported. And I know that was ended up being, some say a fake report from Mike Silver, or it was an inaccurate report that the Browns wanted a second-round pick or were offering a second-round pick for Nick Foles. But if you let him go to free agency, you get nothing, right?
Yeah.
If you trade him, you get something. I'm somebody that has really very little emotional ties with players. Like, I think the legitimate times where I was upset to see a player go was Allen Iverson. I was 10 or 11 whenever he got eventually traded. Like,
right.
That's how young I was. So, of course, it's a little bit different for me than I am now. I go, hey, congratulations. You had a great season. You just made a lot of money if you're Josh Sweat or if you're Milton Williams. Obviously, I'm upset when a talent is gone, but I don't have, like, emotional attachments with players. I don't know if that's bad or good. I have no idea.
I do. Like, that I'm an emotional attachment to players.
Yes, you are. You're an emotional intelligence guy.
I love my guys. And, when I have a player that I really root for and I really connects with this city and plays well, I want them to stay here. And in my aging sports fandom, I think back to 2017 and 2018, and I think about how Alshon Jeffrey, Super Bowl champion, absolutely give him the deal. Like, all the guys you brought back from that team that maybe you shouldn't have, I was largely in favor of at the time. I
hated the thank you contracts. I thought the deal to bring back Brandon Graham, no, I was wrong. I thought it was a horrible deal to bring him back. They made him one of the higher paid edge rushers at the time.
Yeah, and some hit
and I
and
was
some
like,
didn't.
Whoa, he's older. Yeah, but like Alshon didn't hit. There were a lot of guys that didn't hit.
Yeah, so after I saw what happened in 17-18, I'm kind of at the point where it's just like, okay, I can still appreciate these players while understanding that it is a business and there's a way that they have to handle it. And here's the good thing. Howie Roseman has also learned that. He has shown from 2017, 2018, he's going to handle teams different ways coming out of Super Bowl appearances or Super Bowl wins. And I believe that he's not going to give the thank you contracts out this time around. And also, this team makes it easy on Howie because they don't have a lot of thank you contracts to give.
Right, exactly. They got a lot of young guys here that are already under contract for a while. So those are our two questions to start the show today. It's 610-632-0975. Are you okay if the Eagles get younger than they already were last year? And is it harder for you to see players leave after winning? And if you want to just respond to me saying Darius Slay was criminally underrated by a lot of Eagles fans, feel free, because I stand by it, and I have stood by it for a long time now, that I think he's been very underrated by Eagles fans in this city because he doesn't put up the gaudy interception numbers. But if he's locking down the team's number one wide receiver, which has been his job, even this year with the way Quinyon Mitchell's played, it was still Darius Slay's job to lock down wide receiver one for the majority of the games, and he did that. I think he was very underrated in the city. Now, today is deadline day for the franchise tag in the NFL. I don't believe the Eagles are going to do anything. They don't do the franchise tag just 5 times in the 20-plus years of the franchise tag's existence. Obviously, they don't have to do anything with quarterback, which would be the highest tag. The second highest tag is linebacker, and you brought it up a couple of weeks ago, and you were talking about it during the commercial break. It is something that the NFL has to work on.
I can't believe that a league like the NFL that does so many things well about creating this competitive balance has let this slide. The linebacker franchise tag number this year is sitting at $25.4 million.
It's the second highest out of all the positions. Quarterback's number one, then it's linebacker.
And the problem with that is true linebackers are not paid that much. But there are linebackers that are now also considered edge rushers. For example, our old pal Hassan Reddick. He is considered a linebacker, even though he doesn't line up off the ball. He is an edge rusher. And because edge rushers are a more premium position in the modern NFL, those guys get paid more. And when you get a guy like Zach Bond, that's a true Mike linebacker, you can't franchise tag him. You literally can't because the number is too
Yeah, it'd be
high.
stupid.
Like, so how does the NFL allow players to not be classified properly to mess up a team's ability to maintain players under a cap structure like the franchise tag that they created? It's an oversight, and it's one that I can't believe more people haven't complained
Yeah,
about.
just for comparison, Brian Burns, who was with the Panthers for a while, the Giants traded for him this past year. He's listed as an outside linebacker. He's a fingers in the dirt, edge rusher, 8.5 sacks last year. He's a perennial 9-sack-a-year guy. He gets paid a lot of money, which raises the cap, which raises the franchise tag. He's listed as a linebacker, but he's not, like you say, he's not your Mike linebacker. He's the guy that's rushing the quarterback every single play.
It'd be like if your boy Taysom Hill was like somehow set up as a tight end and he got a quarterback's contract, and they're like, the cap hit for the franchise tag for tight ends is now $45 million.
Right, my boy
Just
Taysom
like,
Hill.
Your boy. You
I
love Taysom
hate
Hill.
him, and I'm so glad.
Swiss Army knife.
The Saints. Good job, Kellen Moore, finally realizing that he's not actually an asset to your team that's worth as much money as he gets.
There's your Taysom Hill mention for the day.
It pisses me off when coaches think they're smarter than everybody else. All right, coming up next, we check the text line for the first time this morning on all of our topics today. It is Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I don't understand the sentiment of we won a Super Bowl, so let's not do too much.
Talking about
On Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Don't forget, yesterday we announced that Knockout returns. Was it March 23rd? I have the sheet around here somewhere.
6th.
Yeah, you got it right.
March 26th. There it is. Wednesday, March 26th. I guess I can give the keyword out anytime, right? It's not like a...
Multiple times they set a show.
Yeah.
All right,
so let's run it. The Thomas Invitational is open for business.
Here's what we're doing, because I want the 6 o'clock hour audience to hear about this, because we announced it at 8 o'clock yesterday. But every single day, your chance to win the pair of tickets for the Sixers game against the Wizards Wednesday, March 26th, and also the spot in Knockout. You go to 975thefanatic.com, go to the contest page, and enter today's keyword, which is hoops. Not hoop, hoops with the S, Hoops. You have until the end of the day to enter it. Each winner gets a pair of tickets for the game that night versus the Wizards, and, of course, the spot knockout. So I guess we give away multiple winners a day. Just enter the information on 975thefanatic.com, the contest page. Again, the keyword is hoops. Always love the annual knockout game. It's a lot of fun, something that we've been doing for a long time here at the Fanatic now. And I know, obviously, the team that we'll be watching that night is disappointing this season, but it is still such a cool opportunity to play basketball on an NBA court. So we'll be doing that coming up on Wednesday, March 26th. Speaking of the Sixers, we have an update on Joel Embiid that we will give to you coming up to start the 7 o'clock hour from an unusual source. But we'll get to that later on. Let's start with the text line on our topics this morning. We're reacting to the decision to release Darius Slay, which will save the Eagles a little over $4 million in cap space when you're trying to keep a Super Bowl roster intact. Obviously, every penny goes a long way. That does not mean that he doesn't come back. And by the way, if you're thinking about franchise tagging, that's $20 million.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
So that's not happening with Darius Slay. In case anybody is wondering, hey, could they franchise tag him? No. I don't think they franchise tag anybody, because it's just not worth it for a lot of the positions that they're looking at. Even offensive lineman, Mekhi Becton, right? It's $23 million for a franchise tag for a right guard, and he was spectacular last year. You're either going to work out a deal with him for multiple years, or you let him go and you have Tyler Steen waiting in the wing. But our topics today, are you okay if the Eagles continue to get younger? Your reaction to Darius Slay just not being an Eagle anymore. I think he was criminally underrated by a lot of people in the city. And is it harder for you to see people leave after winning? What are the people saying on the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, we got Perry in Germantown checking in saying, I definitely do not want to see him go to the Lions or any other contender, so bring him back home. Long live Big Play Slay.
Long live Big Play Slay.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the other team that he has mentioned on podcasts, like on record, it's him. It's not according to sources. Like Darius Slay straight up looked into a camera and said he would like to play another year with the Eagles, and if it's not the Eagles, he would like to play for the Lions. And that's one of your biggest competitors next year for an NFC title, or for getting to the NFC title, because I don't know how it's going to work out in terms of seeding, but you could end up seeing a Darius Slay who's been spectacular regardless of what his age is, and he knows how to lock down wide receivers. He could be on the Detroit Lions for all we know.
Yeah, that would not be ideal. I mean, we've had the conversation about Myles Garrett and the Washington Commanders multiple times, where if they have the top offer, Howie Roseman could make an offer they can't refuse to keep him away from Washington. I mean, Darius Slay's a talented player, and this is my whole argument with the Debo Samuel to Washington thing that we talked about yesterday. I want talented players off the teams that you're competing with. I want talented players out of the division.
Oh, good,
out
good
of the
news.
Debo
Samuel isn't a talented player.
Stop it. That's too far. But Darius Slay going to Detroit would be not ideal, especially considering that defense is already stacked. I know they were hurt this past year, so we might forget how talented they are.
Yeah.
That defense is a problem.
I also need to make this clear, because I'm sure there's somebody going, stop, you just hate Debo Samuel because I actually don't think he's as good as a lot of people make him out to be. It has nothing to do with the beef that he had with Eagles fans. And remember, his story was ridiculous. He then hangs up on interviews because he's like, I'm tired of being asked about this. It's like, yo, dude, you're the one that's doing it.
Right.
You're the one that's going out on your own and talking about how much you should have won that game, that NFC Championship game. No, all that aside, I think Deebo Samuel is an overrated player in the NFL. I think he was a big product of the Kyle Shanahan offense. I don't know if he's going to be some major product with the Commanders. So that's not why I'm not worried at all. What else we got on the text line?
Yeah, we got Joe the Cynic checking in, says, I'm all about getting younger after success. I go back to the 08 Phillies and the years after with their loyalty to the aging players, ruining their chances up until 2011 and after.
Well, so here's the thing, and I get where Joe's coming from, and I get where anybody would be coming from when it comes to thank you contracts. I was totally against it when the Eagles won in 2017-18. I'm so ready to move on from players if I think it means my team is going to get better because of it, if I'm going to find a better player. That's why, I know it probably sounded sacrilegious the other day. I would package Nolan Smith for Myles Garrett in a heartbeat. I wouldn't think twice about it. And I know he had a very good season on the rise, had a great playoff run, set franchise records for sacks in the playoffs for the Philadelphia Eagles. Myles Garrett's still a better player. Not afraid to say that kind of stuff. There are people that go, oh, stop. He's one of us. Okay, I would trade him for Myles Garrett.
I would not at all. And part of it's not the Nolan Smith thing; it's the position thing. You're going to be light at that position, and you're going to give up one starter at that position to bring in another. It's a lateral
starter
move.
That's better. Then I would also sign somebody that's probably a veteran to make sure I can fill that void of rotational edge rusher.
You're creating a hole to fill a hole. It's a net zero move based on...
No, Myles Garrett pours the cement in the hole.
You got to understand. It's a net zero move based on roster size. They're going to have to fill these positions with tight cap space a little bit later on in the offseason, and you can't move a defensive end.
Howie figures we'll figure that out.
I just don't like it.
But anyways, the point I'm trying to make, and I understand where Joe's coming from, it's not like you're signing Darius Slay to a 3-year extension. You would be bringing him back for another year. It's the Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. Hey, you want to play again? All right, come back for another year.
Yeah, Brandon Graham, that same thing.
So I'm not worried about the Phillies thing, to Joe's point. I think Howie made that mistake in 2017-18, and he gave a lot of aging players thank you contracts for multiple years. This would be another 1-year deal, and if Darius Slay were to miss time, Keely Ringo's on the roster. It's not like he's going anywhere. It's not like, hey, Darius Slay or Keely Ringo, who are you bringing back? Ringo was on the team. So it's not like you would have to worry about that. Now, the Isaiah Rodgers thing is a different conversation. I imagine you can't bring back both Slay and Rodgers. So you would have to make the decision between those two players. So I'm not worried about that. But thanks, Joe, for the text as always. All right, so coming up next, we reset the show. And as I mentioned, we have an update on Joel Embiid. It's from an unusual source, but we will take any information that we can get. So you'll get that to start the 7 o'clock hour. You can continue to chime in on our conversations today at 610-632-0975. We'll reset everything for you. Coming up next, it is Kincade Salciunas. Connor in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. Tom Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released 6-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is designated a post-June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's by for now, there are reports out there that Slay and the Eagles could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated on that front and everything else surrounding the Birds all offseason long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119-102. They won't have much time to dwell on it as they're back in action on the road tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8, and you can catch that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Keith Pompey, who covers the Sixers for The Inquirer, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said this year has been tougher on Sixers fans than any in recent memory.
I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan.
And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can catch that game live on our sister station, WMMR. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew DeCecco.
Howie Roseman pinpointed Zach Vaughn as a player that they wanted to target, and he collaborated with Vic, and they got something.
Gunner, if you were to like have bad dreams or like night terrors, it would probably be about like life and like real life stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So last night, I think I slept a total of 90 minutes. Coop was having, we believe, night terrors last night, which is terrifying. The kids just scream.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's horrible. But it's like, don't take my milk. And it's like that kind of stuff. He was worried about a toy, and I'm like, man, you just wait. You just wait, buddy.
So low,
this
buddy.
is what's giving you night terrors right now, huh?
Wait till you find out Darius Slay's a free agent.
He's gone.
Yeah, exactly. You just wait. I have a tire that's been leaking air since November.
I don't think that's night terror worthy either.
Well, no. I'm worried that it just pops every. What if it pops one day? I'm on the highway.
You
and it's
only drive 80.
And it's
You'll
4
be fine.
o'clock in the morning, and there's not many people on the road. But it's just wild to live through that. Like that's something where nobody can prepare me for that as a dad. Like, oh man, sleep when you can. That's the stuff that you hear all the time, right? Enjoy your sleep while you still have it. No, it's stuff like, I wish somebody warned me of the night terrors.
Yeah, that's
about
rough.
milk. I wish somebody warned me about being terrified of your shadow.
I bet you won't take away his milk for a week.
No, I'm not doing that. Like last year when he first experienced running and a shadow following him, it freaked him out.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, I guess you didn't know that was a thing. Like, why would you know that?
This younger generation's so soft.
Yeah, they're so soft.
Back in our day, I wasn't scared of my shadow at all.
So I'm running on very little sleep, which is usual for morning show people, but even less than normal, and I feel fine. Sleep is for the weak. Yeah, I'm not soft. So here's what we're talking about today. Darius Slay, it is expected to be released by the Philadelphia Eagles, which would save about $4.3 million in cap space for a team that has some pretty key free agents from the team that won you the Super Bowl, specifically Zach Bond, Mekhi Becton, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Kenneth Gainwell, backup running back, obviously. I don't think he's coming back. I don't think Josh Sweat's coming back. I don't think Milton Williams is coming back. But if every dollar counts towards a Zach Bond or toward a Mekhi Becton or toward a trade for Myles Garrett, who costs a lot of money and will continue to cost a lot of money when you extend his contract, every dollar counts. Now, if this is something for Howie Roseman, what is he cooking? I get it. Or is this just something where he's strategic and says, hey, Darius, we want you back. It's just got to be under a different contract because we can't have that cap hit. So we'll see what they end up doing. It's not out of the question. He could still come back. But Keely Ringo is a guy that's waiting in the wings. Cooper DeJean could slide out to the outside potentially. The man who tweeted all this stuff yesterday, Jeff Mclean, he's going to be joining us coming up at 8:25. I'm curious to get his feel on the situation. Obviously, he does a lot of reporting and digging, and I'm sure he did that yesterday when the news came out. But I'm curious to see what his kind of feel is on the situation, if there is another Darius Slay season or if they're starting to get younger.
Yeah, and my biggest issue with because I'm anti getting younger. I don't know how much younger this team can get. Now, if we're talking individual players, which I think is kind of the point of the conversation here, like getting younger than Slay, that's not the worst thing in the world. Getting younger than Brandon Graham, not the worst thing in the world. Those leadership points are going to have to be picked up by somebody,
Yeah.
but you can't get too much younger because I do think that even though this team now has, like, all of these guys won the Super Bowl, they have that experience, I think adding dudes that have played in the league for 6, 7, 8 years is something that they're going to have to look to do this offseason to try and balance out the young talent that they have.
Even though the young talent was spectacular.
Yeah,
it was amazing, dude. Like, their rookies and second-year players weren't just like role players. Think about the Super Bowl. Cooper DeJean had a pick 6.
Right.
Jalen Carter was a menace. He's in year 2. Like, Zach Bond was tremendous. He was in year 1 of a new position. Like,
Right.
It's wild how much those young players and new position guys contributed last season. To the point where they're the number 1 ranked defense.
Yeah, very atypical of how the NFL normally works. That scares me a little bit about the chances it continue. But, like, it's a great thing you just brought up what you were dealing with at home last night. So, like, Cooper's a great kid, but the night terrors every once in a while, you don't expect that. You got to deal with it. It's growing pains of growing up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell version of the night terrors are, but I do think there will be points where
Allowing a reception.
yeah, there will
Honestly,
be.
like,
but
that's
there
what
will
it
be.
is.
I'm not even talking on the field. I'm talking about over the process of the entire year. There will be instances where you're going to need a couple guys who have gone through it for 7, 8 years. And the Eagles may be lacking in that a little bit on the defensive side of the ball this year.
Could be. But I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now going, they didn't need it last year. But
we don't
Slay
know.
and BG are two captains of the team. And if they were to leave, you now need to replace two captains, which they replaced two captains the previous year, too, because Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey went away. So it is possible.
BG was very important in making sure that the locker room stayed together when the passing game questions came up.
He did a great job with all that.
But hey, see, this is how we all learn.
All right. You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Give us a text, Gunner, and then we will play you an update on Joel Embiid from an unusual source. But I want to hear what the people are saying first on our topics about the Eagles at 610-632-0975.
Yeah, we got Jay in Westchester checking in saying he can't get on board with what Connor had to say about trading Nolan Smith for Myles Garrett. It's not the same as trading a Saquon Barkley for him. It's like trading a Tanner McKee for a Patrick Mahomes. That's the kind of trade you're talking about.
I don't think it's that crazy, but I get what you're saying.
No.
Myles Garrett to Nolan Smith, there's a major difference.
Yes, I'd be insane to debate that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the Eagles' biggest need this offseason as far as a position group is the edge rusher group. So if you want to acquire Myles Garrett, absolutely. And is he better than Nolan Smith? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. But I don't want to move another starting caliber player at a position group that's your weakest one to bring in another guy. Like, you get better at the position, but you don't get deeper. And the Eagles need to get better at some spots.
Well, they're going to acquire players. They'll probably draft an edge rusher, too.
I understand.
Like, it's not like Myles Garrett for Nolan Smith, and they go, all right, it's Garrett, Hunt, and Bryce Huff for 18 weeks.
I just don't like seeing talented players leave your thinnest position group. And you can, like, if it's Nolan Smith is the only piece that gets it done, and there's a deal on the table, and can you acquire Myles Garrett only if you move on from Nolan Smith? I'm probably doing it. But am I thinking, oh, well, that guy could be included, no problem, not worried about it? No, I want to see him still here because that's the one position group that I worry about this offseason.
Okay, fair enough.
One of two, linebacker as well.
I think you're crazy, but fair enough.
I think you're crazy.
So yesterday, Chandler Parsons, he does the Run It Back show on the FanDuel network. I think it's Michelle Beadle and Lou Williams, right? It's three of them. And they talk about all kinds of NBA topics, and it's another NBA show. Now, what I find interesting is Chandler Parsons' rise in like insiderness. Apparently, like, look, he's a former player in the NBA, so I'm sure he's got a lot of connections. I don't know where the Chandler Parsons Joel Embiid connection comes into play. Any?
I don't know.
Any insight there?
No. We'll have to do some research on Parsons' stops in his career. He never played here, so
Houston, Dallas, Memphis, and Atlanta, and he played against Embiid. But I didn't realize that Chandler Parsons
was he a Kansas guy in college.
He went to Florida, so
I don't know.
But whatever. Maybe this is what it is. He was drafted by Daryl Morey, so maybe that's your connection. But anyways, Chandler Parsons talked about this on his show yesterday. He called Joel Embiid, and they had a full-on conversation about what Embiid could be doing.
Most teams and agents will have you get a second and third. If it's Joel Embiid, fourth, fifth, like 20. And I've talked to Joel about this. He's thought about going to Germany and doing the Kobe shots. He's thought about so there's different methods and ways to manage your pain. But when it comes down to this, and it's something that's surgically required to fix it, you have to do it. And now I think punting this season, obviously, it took a little bit of time, but seeing where they are now, this is the right move.
Yeah, it is the right move. I'm glad that it's done for this season so that they can be better next year for it. It's the right move for Joel Embiid to be done. I agree with what Chandler Parsons has to say there. He's talking about the trip to Germany that Kobe Bryant took. He had a knee treatment or whatever that he couldn't get here. So he went to Germany. Now, if anybody's wondering, like, oh, what's the great story afterward? It's not. He played 35 games the next season because he was recovering from the injury. He averaged 22 a game for a bad Lakers team. And then the next year was his last year. And obviously he had the incredible moment where he dropped 60 in his final game of his NBA career.
87 shots.
Yeah. But, that was when he was 35. It was kind of like a last-ditch effort to try to get himself to return to some sort of form. Obviously not the way that you remember him in his prime. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how this, if that is the route. Again, I don't know how much Chandler Parsons is in the know with Joel Embiid's situation. But if that is the situation, I don't know how it affects him. He's 7 feet tall. He's younger than what Kobe was when Kobe got it done. But Kobe missed a lot of part of the following season after missing a lot of time the previous season.
And that's if that's the Kobe shots thing where you just do the injections that he had done. Like if you actually have the break the hip thing to relieve pressure, I don't know. My guess, I'm not a doctor. I've never come close to being one. I don't sound like one, so take this with a grain of salt. But my guess would be if you got to break a bone in the guy's hip and use that to alleviate pressure to work on the knee, that sounds like a longer recovery than the average, even major surgery.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like something where Embiid's going to be back next season. And that's the one thing I'm worried about. Like, I'm reading a lot of articles where it's like they made the right decision, which they did. And so they'll be better for it next year.
Also got somebody checking in on the text line. Embiid played high school ball at the Rock School in Gainesville, while Chandler Parsons was at Florida in Gainesville and practiced there a lot.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that's the connection. How about that's good? That's good reporting by our texter. That's good work.
There's always a connection somewhere.
There is. But I'm worried about the articles that keep on saying, yeah, they'll be better for it next year. Is it confirmed that he's like, I've not seen Shams or Woj coming back from the inside or dead. Like, nobody's reported that he'll get some sort of work done that will have him back next season. I know it's still a lot of time, quote unquote, 6 months, 7 months until the start of the season, but can't, rule out camp.
Yeah, nothing certain.
He didn't do camp this year, right? Coming off of just resting. I can't imagine him being a full go come game one of the season next year if he has to have some major surgery.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy way out.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. All right, coming up next, I have a question about Myles Garrett. I'm going to allow you guys to make the call, Connor and Brendan, because you already know where I'm at with this one. I'm all in for Garrett. Myles Garrett versus multiple players. You make the decision. It is Kincade and Salciunas, Connor, and for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say about Philadelphia sports. The big story.
and John Kincade is enjoying his tropical vacation. He'll be back on Monday. Connor Thomas sitting in his chair today and tomorrow. Andrew DeCecco will be in on Thursday. Amy Fadul will be in on Friday, and Amy's going to be joining us today, per usual, for her Tuesday hit for the 9 o'clock hour. So we'll check our text line here momentarily, but I'm curious to see where you guys come in on this, because Myles Garrett's obviously a big topic of conversation. So when we've been talking about it with John's been against going after Myles Garrett because you have to worry down the road for a lot of your younger players. Jordan Davis is going to be up for a contract after this upcoming season. They're probably going to pick up his fifth-year option, then they'll work out something. Jalen Carter is going to be up for a deal in a couple of years. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, you got to think down the road, and that's what Howie Roseman does. You do also, something that we have not talked about, have to think about the here and now, because you did lose key players or will lose key players to free agency. You're going to lose Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. Josh Sweat was one of your starting edge rushers, played a lot of the snaps at that edge rusher position, and Milton Williams played a lot more than I think a lot of people realize, because Jordan Davis was more so just a rundown player, and Milton Williams did the rest. And so you're losing key guys. We still don't know about Zach Bond. There hasn't been much talk about Zach Bond. A lot of this Myles Garrett stuff has also surrounded not bringing back Zach Bond. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where this goes.
No, you're going to bring back Zach Bond either way, because the Myles Garrett thing is not going to be resolved by the time you have to make that decision on Zach Bond. So you can't listen. One thing, I disagree with a lot of John's opinion on the Myles Garrett situation, but one thing that I will not disagree with is the Eagles are not in the best position asset-wise to acquire him. There are other teams with more. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if those teams sell out for him, but there is no guarantee that you're being able to trade for anybody. So if you're going to make a call a month, 2, 3, 4 in advance to let an all-pro player walk for the chance to acquire Myles Garrett, that is bad business. They're not going to do that.
There is back channeling and there is tampering. Illegal tampering that nobody gets in trouble for, and I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, but
there should not, just tamper. Go ahead. Yeah,
but that works
doing
for
it anyway.
Free agents when you're just like, I'm signing you, I'm paying you this much, we're going to agree to this before we have the opportunity to. Trades are weird.
You don't think Howie met with Myles and his representatives in New Orleans?
Yeah, possibly.
When he literally said on Zach Gelb's show that Philadelphia would be a team he'd like to play for.
But you know how agents work. Scumbags sometimes. I like some agents, and some are just and that's their job, to lie and deceive and get the best deal possible for their clients. That's part of the job description. And all due respect to the people who do that job, there's some people very, very good at it out there that'll tell Howie, yeah, he'd love to come play in Philly. Here's what we're expecting his value to be. And guess what? Washington gets on the phone and they say, we'll give you more, and the next thing you know, the deal's done.
Would you call Nicole Lynn a scumbag to her face?
No, I would not. See, you know what? I went too far with that. I tried to backtrack it.
Nicole Lynn is Myles Garrett's agent.
My fault to the agents out there, the agent community. I apologize, but there are some agents who are not fully truthful, we'll say it this way, with GMs or people outside of their clientele.
See? Because I said that was very sexist of you. Because I said Nicole Lynn, now all of a sudden you're going easy on her. I think you're going to change your tune as soon as I tell you who she works for.
Boris Corp?
Clutch. So she might be a scumbag agent.
Boris did.
All right, come on, man.
No.
Equal opportunity society.
Scumbag was a step too far. Nah, it has nothing to do with Nicole Lynn. All due respect to her. But no, my point in this is the Myles Garrett deal is going to get done wherever he gets traded to, because he will get moved. Is going to get done well after NFL free agency opens, and I am not letting Zach Bond walk to allow. Stop laughing over there. To allow a chance at getting Myles Garrett. That's Howie Roseman is too smart to do that. He is too smart to risk an all-pro caliber player for the opportunity to acquire another.
I hear you. All right, so Zach Bond aside, Myles Garrett versus multiple players. You're if you acquire Myles Garrett, you're not just getting Myles Garrett. You're still going to acquire veteran guys, but it's going to be low money guys. It's going to be Zach Cunningham. It's going to be Nicholas Morrow, right? So would you rather go Myles Garrett, who is a splash, and imagine him with Jalen Carter on the same line? That would be terrifying for any quarterback in the NFL. Or is it the veteran that's making $8 million that can play corner that replaces Darius Slay? It's the veteran that makes $12 million that plays edge rusher It's the veteran that plays linebacker because who knows when the Kobe Dean comes back. So are you going with the one big splash, or are you getting like the 3 or 4 players that make less money?
Now, with Myles Garrett...
The reason why they make less money, by the way.
Yeah, Myles Garrett being the splash, I'm going with the splash.
That's where I'm going.
Here's the beautiful thing. The Eagles don't need that much. Like, they'll need depth. They'll need to shore up some positions, but they're not a team that's, like, looking to fill a bunch of positions. And we're talking from the fan perspective. Obviously, Howie's going to be busy building out the depth. They've got practice squad guys. They've got all of these backup guys that they're going to have to put in that'll play special teams. But ultimately, starter-wise, the Philadelphia Eagles are as well set up as pretty much any team in football. And with that, this turns this conversation of, multiple guys are Myles Garrett. Like, we're going to have this discussion because it's a fun one, but ultimately it's, do you want your Lamborghini green or red? In either situation, you're going to be an awesome football team.
Red, by the way.
Yeah, red? You're a red guy? I think I'd
for
go
a
green.
Trying to get tickets?
For a Lamborghini. Well, for a Lamborghini, like, that's a red.
They go after red cars, right? But ultimately, the Eagles are so well set up. They have the opportunity to make this splash move, and if they sacrifice other players they could potentially bring in to add more depth to the team, I'm fine with that because, like, for example, Darius Slay. Let's say bringing Myles Garrett in here would not allow you to re-sign Slay on a 1-year deal for his final year. Guess what? I don't know that an opposing quarterback is going to have time to target Darius Slay's replacement if Myles Garrett is on the line. He makes up for a lot of deficiencies on a Cleveland team that stinks.
On the flip side, though, coming into this year, our weakest point was that D-line, quote-unquote, and then they came around on the end, but everything else was strong, and our defense was better. Go back to 2022. The strong point was the line getting 70 sacks, but once they got shut down and the rest of the defense was weaker, they got exposed in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but they didn't have Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, which is going to go a long way for this team. Unless DeJean's not as good as an outside corner as he is a slot. I don't know. We'll see how that one translates to the next level next season. But it's the league that never sleeps, man. We're already talking about free agency. We're already talking about next year's roster. And it hasn't even been a month since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Coming up next, I said it early in the show. I believe Darius Slay is criminally underrated by a lot of you Eagles fans out there. All right? Everybody has their favorite players, and everybody has players that they're not necessarily the biggest fans of. I don't know why Darius Slay didn't get more appreciation in this city during his time. So I have a list of players that I believe are underappreciated by Philadelphia sports fans. And I'm going to go through them next. If I miss any that you think deserve to be on the list, you can obviously let me know, and you can text them in at 610-632-0975. But I'm curious to see how much you guys agree or disagree with my list of players that are underappreciated, current players that are underappreciated by Philadelphia fans across the city. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this Championship Tuesday morning here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released 6-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is going to be designated a post-June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's by for now, there are reports out there that are saying Slay and the Eagles could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated on that front and everything else surrounding the Birds all offseason long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119-102. They won't have much time to dwell on it, though, as they're back in action tonight on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8. You can catch that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Keith Pompey, who covers the Sixers for The Inquirer, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said this year has been tougher on Sixers fans than any in recent memory.
I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan.
And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can catch that game live on our sister station, WMMR. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry. You can still hear...
6:26 here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. In an hour, we'll be joined by Jeff Mclean, who did a lot of the reporting yesterday on the decision to release Darius Slay. So we'll get into that coming up at 8:25 with our man Jeff Mclean. But I have a list of players that I believe are underappreciated by people in the city of Philadelphia sports fans. And some you probably already know because I talk about it pretty frequently on the air. Like I have said that Joel Embiid is the most underappreciated athlete in the city of Philadelphia. I understand
right now.
I know, but we just get rid of him as if he wasn't an MVP, two-time runner-up, best player of the Sixers team over the past decade. Will go into the Hall of Fame one day, by the way. So are we not going to celebrate his induction? Like I think he was. I say Darius Slay was criminally underrated in this city during his time here with the Eagles. It's even worse with Joel Embiid. I understand it's 5 guys on the court. We have seen Joel Embiid come up small. What he has done at times was criminal, like the Boston Celtics series disappearing, Poopgate against the Raptors, the Atlanta Hawks series. Like Joel Embiid has had a lot of his own issues on the court that would lead to a lot of people feeling a certain type of way about him. But I do believe that Joel Embiid is probably the most underappreciated athlete in the city of Philadelphia. Darius Slay is up there on the list for me. I believe Jalen Hurts, maybe not anymore, but I think Jalen Hurts was on that list before they won the Super Bowl because at times last year, I mean, we literally had a caller after they beat the Rams in the divisional round of the playoffs say that the Eagles have a quarterback problem. Now, that guy since called back in leading up to the Super Bowl and took back his words, and I appreciated that. But he wasn't the only person. He was just the one that was like man enough to say it on the phone lines. The amount of people on Twitter that hide behind fake profile pictures that are anti-Jalen Hurts still kind of leads me to believe that he is underappreciated in this city because maybe there's a preference to what kind of quarterback you want. But if the guy wins, that should be all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Another guy that's one of your boys, Nick Castellanos, with the Phillies season right around the corner.
You got that. You're spot on.
I'm sure he's on the list.
Nick Castellanos is so underappreciated in this city. I understand why. Look, every time I mention a name, I see why. I know why. Like, Darius Slay didn't have 8 interceptions like he did as a career high with the Lions. He never had that, and people probably thought when he came here that he would be like a turnover machine. He's not. But if you go a step further, that's not what this defense necessarily was all about. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean did not have their first interceptions until the playoffs, and they're talked about like they're Eric Allen and Asante Samuel, right? Like,
well, they're the new guys. They're the young guys.
I get it, but they don't have interceptions all season long. And you would think that Darius Slay is he's paid too much.
But it's also, think about the guys you just listed, right? Jalen Hurts, Joel Embiid, Darius Slay, Nick Castellanos.
All high-paid players,
well,
too.
It's not just that. It's also a personality thing, right?
True.
They have outstanding personalities in one way or another. And I say outstanding is like they stand out, not like they're the best of it. Darius Slay is a guy that'll chat with opposing players and be all friendly with them. There are people in the city that don't love that because they love the old days of guys trying to kill each other in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is a robot. Joel Embiid, people have looked at him as immature since he got here. Whether that's right or wrong with how he's developed in his career, there were points for sure. And Nick Castellanos is the aloof guy that no one seems to be able to pin down, that doesn't seem to take anything too seriously.
Like the aloof guy that has been your most consistent player over the last 2 seasons, playing-wise, because he's on the field pretty much every single
all
game.
162 last year.
His way of play has been consistent. And I get it. Like, if somebody might say, well, Schwarber's a consistent 40-home run guy. I'm talking about start to finish in a game. I know that Castellanos is going to probably get on base. He's going to drive in runs. He's going to do a lot of the good things for this team. And he's had slumps. But 2022, when a lot of people were disappointed with this play, where he still ended up hitting 263, that was a bad year for the contract. The last 2 seasons, he's been tremendous.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Philadelphia. That's why so many athletes say how tough it is to play here, because it's not just what you do on the field. It's not just whether or not you're talented. You need to be the full package of what this city enjoys in their athletes to be beloved here. And that's just the reality of the way that we consume our sports. So sometimes it leads to us underrating talented players because there are other aspects of them that don't really fit with our mentality of what a Philadelphia athlete should be.
Yeah, and I don't care about all that as long as you're good.
I don't either, but I understand that that's a part of this fan base and probably always will be.
I'll give you another one. Also tough sell because offensively he struggled last year, but JT Realmuto catches like 120 games a season. Last year, obviously down because of the injury. But he catches like on average, actually with the Phillies, on average 130-plus games if you take away the COVID season. And he handles one of the best rotations in baseball. I understand the pay. You would think he'd be a better hitter. I don't know why people thought when he got here he was like a home run hitter. He wasn't. He was a gap guy. He's kind of been exactly who I thought he would be since signing here. And he signed here as one of the best catchers in baseball. And in terms of defense, he's still up there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think he is underappreciated in this city. And lastly, your boy, Aaron Nola.
Very much so. I thought you were going to say Brandon Marsh, and I was going to say absolutely right. But no, Nola.
No, I don't appreciate him a lot.
Aaron Nola is going to go down as one of the, top 5 pitchers in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies organization, maybe?
Depending on if you're looking at longevity and all that kind of stuff, yes.
Like, that dude has done everything. He's homegrown in this organization, which we always complain about. This team doesn't develop enough talent.
It's actually amazing because that's usually people would side with the homegrown player over the free agent or the trade more often than not in this city. Like, people did not want to trade Tyrese Maxey for Kevin Durant 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's weird, the relationship with Nola.
And guess what? If Aaron Nola had Kyle Schwarber's personality, he would be a god in this city.
Could be, yeah.
But he is a dead silent dude from Louisiana that just goes out there and handles his business. And when he gets a little streaky, all of a sudden, because that's the thing, every player has the ups and downs, right? Every player has their moment where they don't produce, where they have a rough year, a rough month, whatever the case may be. And when that happens for a Jason Kelce, which it didn't really happen for him, but in those rare circumstances, the fan base then turns to but look at this personality, look at the leadership, look at how he embraces the city. You have something to hold on to when the play diminishes.
So is that more important in this city when coming to being appreciated? Like, is that more important than what you do on the field?
For people, it is. I don't care. We've had this as a topic. I don't care if I hate the players. Just win. Now, if you lose and I hate you, then the vitriol's a little bit harsher. But I don't care. Obviously, within reason. I'm not talking about like scum of the earth. I'm just saying, like, if I don't like your personality, but you're winning, I don't care. I've said it. I don't want to hang out with Jalen Hurts. Like, he's not. I don't think Jalen and I we might actually like music together. But other than that, I mean, you listen to the music, you hear the music I listen. I'm all over the place.
Right.
But I don't think Jalen Hurts seems to be the guy that I want to go like drink a beer with. But he won a Super Bowl, so I'll love him forever.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I don't think it's more important, Brendan, to answer your question. But I do think it's like a 60-40 split, and 60 is talent.
I think it's more important here than for a lot of other cities.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like,
he's so Philly, he gets us.
It should be like 85 or 90 to like 15 or 10%, the higher number being the talent determining how you look at a player. But here it feels like it's 60-40, closer to a 50-50 split, and that's just the reality of Philadelphia.
By the way, when I say Nola, I put myself under one of the people that underappreciates him.
You've come around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's because he's starting to actually pitch well in big moments. Like, there was a stretch where it would be he was dominant against the Marlins, he was dominant against the Cincinnati Reds, and then it would be a big spot against the Atlanta Braves, and he would poop himself. That has since gone away, but it was for a long time. The ace, and that was the other thing that bothered me. He's not an ace. Like, you could be the number one on your staff,
and not
I don't give you the ace tag.
He's a top 20 guy in baseball.
The second Zach Wheeler got here, check the tape. I was like, there's your ace. Like, Zach Wheeler is an ace. Aaron Nola is a number one.
Wheels may also be underappreciated to some extent, only because what he's done has been so amazing that I don't know there's a level to properly appreciate him.
I don't know if he's underappreciated here. I think people love Zach Wheeler.
I think they do.
I think we don't realize that he's putting up
that's more
Hall of Fame numbers during his time here in Philadelphia. But I think for the most part, I don't think there's people that complain about Zach Wheeler.
No.
I mean, an Aaron Nola start, just read Twitter, versus Zach Wheeler start.
That's true.
Zach Wheeler could give up a home run, and it's like, Aaron Nola gives up a home run. It's like, here we go again.
Well, it
and he
depends
might
if it's
only
in
give
the
up
fourth
one
inning
hit
or not.
Well, yeah, it's true. The Rap fourth inning, man. All right, so if you have any other players that you think are underappreciated in this city, feel free to chime in on 610-632-0975. And, of course, any of our topics. We will check our text line coming up coming up next. But also, Howie Roseman had a line that will go down in Eagles franchise history. I believe the quote should be plastered all over Lincoln Financial Field.
Maybe not.
We all fertilize.
It's actually something that I think we kind of said in our own words, but not the way Howie did it yesterday. You got to hear it. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and Sylvanic.
text line here momentarily. But Howie Roseman was on Todd McShay's podcast. Todd McShay no longer with ESPN doing the draft coverage. And so, Howie went on as a guest, and they were talking about the upcoming draft because it was from the Combine. And Todd McShay is still very much a part of NFL draft coverage. So he still covers it. He just has his own podcast now. And so Howie Roseman was on it. And if you remember, before the Super Bowl happened, I asked both you and John a question about what this Super Bowl would mean to you if they were to win it. And all of us kind of gave different answers. It was going to be truly special for John because he was not here the last time they won it, and he had a bucket list item for his career, which was hosting a show on the day of a parade. And, he didn't do that with the Phillies because he was in Atlanta in 2008, and the Flyers and Sixers, he was not in radio yet. And, of course, now the Eagles. So he checked that off. For me, I was more excited for this one if they were to win than the last one because I was so worried about my first hosting shift because I hosted my first ever show from 2 in the morning until 5 in the morning after the Eagles won Super Bowl 52. And so I was like, man, if they win this one, I can actually kind of celebrate this one. You and I walked to Broad Street.
We celebrated.
We walked from Patty Wax to Broad Street. You said that this Super Bowl would be, instead of the, oh, my God, we finally did it, it was the damn right we did it kind of thing.
Yeah, we knew it. This is the proof that this team is as good as we thought. And damn, did they prove it.
And so all three of us gave different answers on the same question. And so Howie Roseman, I think, kind of had a similar feeling to what we were saying.
He was feeling something.
But he used his words in a way that I think we will all truly appreciate, all truly understand, all truly agree with. Take a listen to the GM of your Philadelphia Eagles with Todd McShay.
Is this PG rated or PG-13?
Whatever you want.
Yeah. So I'd say like the first one's almost like, can I say this?
Yes,
Can we delete this? Is this live? You don't know what I'm saying? You don't know what
this is the best part. You can be you.
It's almost like the first time you have sex. You're so glad you had sex. It's not even the quality of it. The second time,
it's actually great.
The second time, it's like, wow, I could actually have fun and enjoy this.
Totally get what you're saying, Howie. Totally get it. Yeah, the first time, you're nervous, dude. You're making sure you're doing things correctly, and, how do you handle yourself, and, you're done.
You're in your own head a little bit.
You're done, and then you're like, oh, that was nice. But then, once you get the experience of it, you know how to do different roster moves. You know how to evaluate positions differently.
You manipulate the cap a little bit better.
I'm still talking about football, by the way. Maybe the length of the celebration's different, longer for most, I would hope. But, yeah, I mean, what Howie said there is kind of what we were saying, but in a much more recognizable way that I think every man, and I believe woman as well, would agree with.
Yeah, it was well said by Howie Roseman in the PG-13 way that he said it there. And, yeah, I didn't expect that type of quote coming from Howie Roseman. That felt more like I don't know.
Nick Sirianni quote?
No, I was thinking more like an offensive lineman. Like that would strike me as like a Jordan Mailata or a Landon Dickerson type of moment there. Now, this is obviously those guys' first one, so maybe it was like their first time for those guys.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, that is it's well said by Howie Roseman in an interesting way that I did not expect.
Maybe the beer can to the forehead is what changed the personality a little bit.
Well, he's got the football guy cred to the nth degree.
He does now, yeah.
So
I bleed for the city. Look, he's on a heater right now, not just draft selections. I bleed for the city was a great line after he took the can to the forehead. And then that yesterday, that he's spot on with that analogy.
Yeah, we've all had those moments in life where it's like you're growing up and maybe you're trying something new and you're not totally comfortable with who you are in that moment, right? You're coming to terms with the person that you want to be in these given experiences. And I think Howie Roseman, I'm not talking about what it sounds like I'm talking about.
What kind of person are we?
No.
Did he figure out?
I'm talking about being comfortable with your personality and who you are. Everybody goes through those insecurities. And I think Howie's reached a point in this city where he's like, I know how good I am at this. I have the record to back it up. I've got 2 rings now. I am comfortable being the person that I am in front of this fan base and behind closed doors, like we used to call him a nerd all the time back in the day. Like
non-football guy.
Exactly. He's just this numbers dude that has no idea what he's doing. And it's just like, I think he has now reached a point with the fan base and with himself where he's like, I know I'm good at this. I know the fan base appreciates how good I am. I can now open up a little bit more and be Howie Roseman. I love that for him.
Damn right. Well, Zach Bond, remember, he talked about how the Philadelphia Eagles allowed him to be him himself. So maybe everybody's kind of have that. Maybe the fertilizing speech from Nick Sirianni wasn't just about playing.
Those flowers be blooming.
Maybe it was also about your personalities coming out a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have on the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, we got somebody checking in. No name on this one. He says, Joel Embiid, underappreciated, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. That can't be serious. He doesn't play ever. Also, he gives poor effort when he's out there. Not true. Can't be tolerated. Lane Johnson is the answer, though.
No, because I think everybody loves Lane Johnson.
What do you mean, Lane?
Everybody. So, again, underappreciated. Like, Joel Embiid, that text right there is why I say what I say. That he is historically the most underappreciated athlete ever in the city of Philadelphia. That text right there. Have you ever heard a complaint about Lane Johnson?
No. Well, not in years.
I mean, not since the juice stuff.
The juice stuff. That was in 2016, right? It's almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
That text right there. Really? He gives no effort when he goes out there. So he just went through the motions and won an MVP. He just went through the motions and was a 3-time MVP candidate. He just went through the motions and was having a season before his injury last year that was historic to the likes of Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan. He just went through the motions and did that. That's what I'm talking about, the stupidity from a lot of Sixers fans. He just went through the emotions, being 7 feet tall and having handles like a guard. Just went through the motions doing all that.
No, and that's an erroneous text. One thing I will contend, I don't know if he's number one. There is another leading candidate in our lifetime.
Who?
5.
Oh, yeah.
Donovan McNabb may have his place in that conversation.
And you know what? Embiid's going to turn out to be 5.
Yeah.
10 years from now, there's going to be people like me on the radio still supporting Joel Embiid, and then there's going to be a younger generation, or there's going to be a generation that just doesn't care because he didn't win anything. And there's a lot of people that are like that with 5. And now that Hurts won the Super Bowl, Donovan McNabb is going to be a distant memory for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll take 2 NBA Finals championships in the next 15 years if that's how that plays out.
That would be nice. I would hope that were to be the case. All right, coming up next, we reset the show. We'll check more of your text messages. Today's headlines with Brendan Gunn around 8:15 today. Jeff Mclean at 8:25 to talk about Darius Slay. Got a lot for you here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released 6-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is going to be designated a post-June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's goodbye for now, there are reports that Slay and the Birds could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated on that front and everything surrounding the Birds all offseason long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trail Blazers last night by a score of 119-102. They're not going to have much time to dwell on it as they're back in action on the road tonight to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8. You can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. Keith Pompey, who covers the Sixers for The Inquirer, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said this year might have been tougher than any in recent memory, including the process.
I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan.
And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can catch that game on our sister station, WMMR. This update was brought to you by AAA Car Care. Come into your local AAA Car Care Center and save $40 on any repair of $150 or more. Offer valid through March 31st. Details at AAA.com/mycar. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
yesterday, around this time yesterday, we announced that Knockout's returning Wednesday, March 26th. Another knockout. I don't know what year this is because I think it happened post the beginning of FanFest.
I've played in 3 of them, so that's all I'm aware of.
I think this could be 9. This could be maybe even the 10th knockout, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a great event.
The COVID threw it off. Everything got thrown off from COVID, so I don't know what number we're at. But it returns Wednesday, March 26th. If you go to 975thefanatic.com now, the contest page, all you have to do is enter the keyword HOOPS, HOOPS, and that will put you in the running for a chance to win the pair of tickets and the spot in Knockout following the game. Everybody has the opportunity to climb in on this. I don't know if it's different keywords each show, or is it just one keyword for the day?
Theirs was different than ours yesterday on midday.
Okay. So just for now, until the morning show is over.
Yeah.
Hoops.
But this isn't like a call to action, like do it now. Like you could, if you're driving to work, get to work safely and then do it when you get there. You have all show to enter the keyword hoops to 975thefanatic.com's contest page. Coming up in a few, we have today's headlines with Brendan Gunn. I actually gave him one of the stories today, and I can't wait for it. And it's from like kind of an enemy of mine, but I respect it.
You have a lot of enemies. I'm
I
starting
do.
to realize this about you.
I do. If you do me wrong, I don't necessarily like you anymore, and I feel like this person did a certain school wrong in this city.
Okay.
We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. All right, so let's check the text line on our topics. Darius Slay expected to be released by the Philadelphia Eagles, $4.3 million cap saving there by making this move. They could still bring him back. It's not ruled out. Obviously, if they do bring him back, I'm sure they would do some sort of signing bonus where he gets money up front to help with the cap space. But this is going to be step one of many to sort of alleviate the cap issues, not issues with the Eagles, because Howie Roseman never has the issues, but you know that they're up against it toward the end of every single season. So he has to make some moves in order to go get other top talents like a Myles Garrett, if that's a possibility, or multiple players like Zach Bond and the replacements to Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. And I'm curious, where does Darius Slay rank for underappreciated athletes for a lot of people? Because I think he is. I think he was severely underappreciated by a lot of Eagles fans in this city for a long time. I told you a story, and forgive me, I don't know who it is, but I know there's somebody listening that knows who I'm talking about. There was a woman that was getting a tour of the Eagles facilities this past summer, and she took a photo of her flipping off Darius Slay's locker. And now she may have some personal beef. I don't know, but there were people that didn't like Darius Slay. And his entire tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles has been pretty damn good. I know the interception numbers were low, but that was the style of defense that's been played in this city, especially since Darius Slay got here with Jonathan Gannon and then Sean Desai because he was the Vic Fangio tree and then Fangio himself. This wasn't a team that was looking to pick off passes on a given week. And Darius Slay locked down his opposition, his opposing wide receiver, more often than not. And I wonder why there was that, why people underappreciated him as much as they did. I have no idea.
So he was here for 5 years. He was a Pro Bowl player in 3 of them.
Okay.
Like, I know the Pro Bowl isn't what it was, but like, I don't know, man. It's
still recognition. Forget the game. Like when somebody says they were nominated for the Pro Bowl, just look at it as the fact that they were nominated, like they were given an award.
Yeah, 21, 22, and 23, right in the bulk of the Philadelphia Eagles' contention in this Jalen Hurts era of football. He was a Pro Bowl caliber corner at a position that's hugely important in the NFL. And he was a leader. He was a captain. He was a guy that, here's the other thing, too, that he doesn't get enough credit for. He was mentoring these young players. And how many times do we see great athletes that are great leaders in the locker room have the opportunity to mentor their replacement or a young player coming in, and a guy that you've seen do everything right in his career says, nah, I'm good. Like, that's not my job.
There are a lot, and I don't blame the players that don't want to, but I really respect the players that do, because it shows also what kind of franchise that you have. Like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce both, Jason Kelce literally handpicked his replacement, but both Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce worked with their eventual replacements.
Like if Quinyon Mitchell is the player he looks like he's going to be, part of that credit goes to Darius Slay.
Yeah.
When Howie Roseman talked to talked to Quinion after he got drafted, he was like, yo, I want you to be next to Slay all the
Move
time.
in with Darius
Move
Slay.
into his house.
Yeah.
Like, was the conversation had. And I don't understand where the malice comes for Darius Slay.
No idea. You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. What are the people saying on the text line so far this morning, Gunner?
Yeah, we got Trevor in Percy checking in saying Darius Slay is a good underrated player. One that he mentions is Alec Boehm. He says ever since he said, I hate this place, his play has been 100 times better. Fielding at third base improved, learned to first base as well, not to mention the 45-ish doubles and almost 100 RBI, yet people still complain about him.
Yeah, and I think the complaint comes playoff time and attitude-wise.
Yeah.
And I think those are very logical complaints. I would move on from Alec Boehm because I don't want my third baseman hitting 15 home runs. But if I forget the position for a second, Alec Boehm and his style of hitting works with this lineup because you need somebody that can consistently not just go for the long ball, right? It puts my brain in a pretzel that a guy that's 6'4" slaps. Like, it's weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not necessarily what I would think out of a 6'4" corner infielder.
Oh, that's your kind of hitting, though. The slappers.
Yeah, he ain't 6'4".
I'm not 6'4", dude. Nobody's looking at me as the tall guy.
Yeah, I can't go with Alec Boehm as underappreciated. He was early on in his career here a defensive liability. He has since become a league average third baseman defensively, which is all you need him to be.
But, by the way, people love him because of the daycare thing.
Right. Like, here's the thing. Really good regular season player. He gets credit for that. Has absolutely collapsed in the postseason every chance he's had a major opportunity. And that's something that matters when you're a championship
He came through in Game 7 against the Diamondbacks. Nobody else did.
Yeah. That's fair. But, I mean, the thing is, he's been a disappointment based on what he shows in the regular season and the postseason. So I think Alec Boehm is properly appreciated.
Okay. What else we got on the text line?
Yeah, we brought up the franchise tag earlier, and some guy doesn't understand why. He says, is there a bad stigma with the franchise tag, and why don't the Eagles use it to their advantage like other teams?
Well, a lot of it is because of how much it is, like the money. Like, let's forget the linebacker thing for a second, because obviously that's raised for
it's dumb
because of the edge rusher. Would you franchise tag Kenneth Gainwell for $13 million just to try to keep him around? No. Would you franchise tag Mekhi Becton $23 million? Or if you know that salaries continue to rise, would you rather get it at a number earlier than before it jumps up? That's part of the genius of Howie Roseman.
Right.
Not letting guys get to free agency. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith were locked up. He then extended both of them.
Yeah, no, here's the thing with the franchise tag. That texter brought up taking advantage of it the way other teams do. No, the franchise tag takes advantage of you. The franchise tag takes advantage of GMs and organizations, because what the franchise tag is for either, one, cheap owners who won't pay their players and want guys on a discount to keep them there and not allow them to go to free agency like they probably should be able to, a guy like T. Higgins. Or it's for GMs or front office members who don't have the foresight to get their guys on controllable contracts before these situations come up. Howie Roseman is better when he does not have the restrictions of like what the rest of the league is doing. What the franchise tag is, it allows bad teams to play at the level good teams do when it comes to paying their players. Howie Roseman plays on a level well above the other good teams. He'd be restricting himself if he used the franchise tag because he can build a better contract himself. Yeah. That's why they don't use it.
Yeah, like I like T. Higgins. He got the franchise tag, as you mentioned, which is about $24 million for the Cincinnati Bengals. Devontae Smith, a guy that you would probably compare him to. His average salary is $25 million, but he's got that for the next 3 years or for the next 2 years. No, starting the season. So for the next 3 years, he's $25 million a year. After this season, when T. Higgins, you can't franchise tag a guy a third time, he's probably going to end up making more money than Devontae Smith, and that's probably not something that should happen. But it is what it is because of the market.
Whether it should happen or not, it doesn't have to happen.
Right.
You can avoid paying a player that much money by having a little bit of foresight on who the guys you are that want to keep. And
I
other
understand
GMs can't
franchise tagging a quarterback.
Right now, it does make sense for T. Higgins, though. They're saying his projected mark is $30 million. The tag's only $26, but it's not fair.
Right. But what I'm saying is eventually they're going to have to pay him the 30 might then go up to 32 next year. Like, I don't know. If you jump on it quicker like they did with Devontae Smith, if they waited another year, his number's going up to 30. He's a Super Bowl winning wide receiver.
Look at Dak. They franchise tagged him 2 times in a row. Now his cap hits $90 million compared to 21 for Hurts.
Tell me something real quick on the quarterback thing, because you're right. Like, it's used often on quarterbacks, guys you get in for the 1 year that you're like, well, I need him for another year because you're a bridge guy that we believe that we can continue to play with. When was the last time a franchise-tagged quarterback won a Super Bowl? Won anything? Like,
that's a good question.
It doesn't happen.
I got to try to look that up.
That stuff does not happen because all it is, the franchise tag is a quick fix that allows you to feign competitiveness by bringing in players that you should have already locked down.
Right. But what I get is, like, especially with today's market, like quarterbacks, the franchise quarterbacks are making 50 plus a year. You could get them tagged at 40. So that's literally saving $10 million. If you're the Minnesota Vikings and you think that Sam Darnold, you're not 100% sure if you want to lock him up for 3 or 4 years, but you could lock him up for 1 more year for $10 million less than the going rate.
Yeah, but guess what? If you're a $40 million quarterback, you're a $50 million quarterback. If you're a 50, you're probably a 60. Like, either guys play in that league and they don't. And you know the quarterback problem in the NFL. There are too many guys getting paid 50 that aren't 50. But if you're paying someone 40, it's not like you're paying them 10. Like,
right.
That's
the paying a lot of money.
I hate the franchise tag because to me it shows GMs that are not able to predict out how they want to handle their business.
And that's why Howie doesn't do it.
Doesn't need to.
All right, coming up next, we'll check some more text messages. We also have today's headlines with Brendan Gunn. I won't go mortal enemy, but an enemy of mine did something that I respect. It is Kincade Salciunas. This is going to be old man yelling at clouds, even though I'm only 31. 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Sixers win. Play that.
a championship Tuesday here on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Connor in for John today and tomorrow. We have our man Jeff Mclean coming up at 8:25. He'll be able to talk more about the Darius Slay decision to eventually release him. And then when they do that, what's next? I know he said there's a chance for him to come back, but I'm curious to try to get the tone from Jeff. Does he believe Darius Slay will come back, or are the Eagles looking to get younger, which is one of our questions today. How would you feel if the Eagles do get younger at 610-632-0975? Before we get to today's headlines, give us one more text. What are the people saying this morning on the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, somebody's checking in saying, I definitely agree with you saying Darius Slay is underrated. I would hate to see him go, and I hope they bring him back on a cheaper deal. But how long will it take for them to make that decision?
I don't know how much of a rush it was. When did Darius Slay, wasn't it like the same day?
It was like within
Last
a day
time.
or two. Now, the weird thing is, he's going to be designated as a post-June 1st release because that's how you create the cap space.
That's just how they do the paperwork and stuff.
But does that, logistically require them to wait a certain amount of time?
No, because you can sign with somebody today. I think they did him a favor by cutting him so he can go out there and hit the market before.
Yeah, it's just a paperwork thing. Speaking of Jeff Mclean, I actually asked Jeff that before. It's just how you would put it in the documents. I don't know why other teams wouldn't do that, you know?
Yeah. Well, other teams don't do a lot of smart stuff, which is what we just talked about with the franchise tag.
That's true. So, yeah, I mean, look, Darius Slay is underappreciated. Now, I will say this. Somebody reached out to me on Twitter yesterday saying, didn't the Eagles just do this? I said, yeah. It does feel different this time.
It does.
Like, I thought he was going to come back the last time. I'm not getting that feeling this time.
Well, it's the
Which kinda
34 years old. He's already said, I got 1 year left. This is like, do you bring in swan song guy? And like, Brandon Graham was a no-brainer because he's Brandon Graham and he's been here his whole year. Lane Johnson, when it gets to that point, will be a no-brainer. Same with Fletcher Cox. Same with Jason Kelsey. By the way, 1 year anniversary of Jason Kelsey's retirement as of today. So, like, those guys.
Hungry dogs run faster.
Damn right. We haven't heard from him in a minute. This must be the seat. But my point is, like, if it's an all-time Eagle, it's a no-brainer. For a guy that was here for 5 years, it's not as much sentimental, I think. Is that fair to say?
No, it's not as sentimental with Darius Slay, but he's had a hell of a career here with the Eagles and won a Super Bowl. All right, it is 8:14. Time now for today's headlines with Brendan Gunn.
Today's headlines with the one and only Brendan Gunn.
Brought to us by who?
Oh, Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name, Lundy Law, your injury lawyers. Visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com. I don't like that you got the one and only.
I am the one and only.
I guess you are. I guess that's fair.
Listen, you know any other Brendan Guns? I don't think so.
Not yet.
They got a big name to live up to. Big shoes. But
what are you, like a size 10?
And a half. Put some respect on my name. We're approaching 1 month from the Super Bowl, and a lot of people are saying the run started off when the mayor said this.
Well, listen, we've got to do this. Let me hear you all say ELGS, Eagles!
Well, a fan out there, you got to. ELGLES Eagles. Guy just got his license plate in. He commemorated the Super Bowl with that. What's a better I don't want to say waste of your money. What's a better choice of your money? A tattoo of the Super Bowl or the license plate?
The license plate's a better way to spend your money.
Hashtag Haley, yeah.
Yeah, Haley's got the vanity plate.
I'd rather go tattoo than the vanity plate.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Tattoo? I've been somebody that's been wanting a tattoo for like 15 years, and I just chicken out every single time. If you were to have me either pay for a tattoo or pay for a vanity plate, I'm going to tattoo.
Yeah, like I would go vanity plate because it's not permanent. You could change that again after that, like the tattoo thing.
That Super Bowl's permanent.
Yeah, I
understand.
Look at Pete Davidson, dude. He's taking them off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're not there forever.
I mean, I'd go with. I'm not a tattoos guy though.
Yeah. By the way, there are other Brendan Gunns.
Uh-oh.
There is a Brendan Gunn who has a PhD in linguistics.
You could barely put two words together. That guy's got you smoked.
But maybe even bigger, there's Brendan Gunn who produced The Last Rifleman and The Illusionist, two great movies.
Well, I produced Kincade Salciunas.
Yeah, damn right you do.
Point.
Great work.
Fair point.
Speaking of things that will be there forever, the internet. That's always there. And Matt Rule, he walked in on his players doing some ticky-tacky dances. And he appeared on the Pat McAfee show, and this is what he had to say about what he made them do as, I don't know, a punishment, maybe a reward in their eyes, but he describes it.
I thought I saw 35 of my football players doing TikToks. How did you feel? Well, one of them did it in the facility, which is a hard no. So our strength coach did a TikTok workout this morning with the freshmen. they were pushing plates with their bios and all their cool stuff on there that they love to post everywhere. They're pushing the plate with their bio.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I got to tell you the last part. I know it harder. They were doing wall sits at the end, and every freshman had to get out and do a 10-second TikTok dance while the rest of the guys did the wall.
That's great.
I love it.
I understand that this is such old man yelling at clouds. Like, I get it. I don't run from the fact that I'm 31 going on 61. I am one of the guys focus on the sport. I know there's guys like Jared McCain that can do both at a apparently high level, even though he does the same dance on every video. So I don't understand the TikTok craze.
I don't get it either.
I really don't get it. Like this,
we're old.
TikTok is legitimately brain rot. Like he does the same dance. Jared McCain on he ends up flexing on every single video, and yet he's got millions of followers. So good for you, Jared McCain. I'm not saying go away from it. Keep doing it, my man. And you can clearly play basketball. I love that Matt Rule punished the team for doing the TikToks by making them dance in front of the players that are doing the wall sits. And if you're doing the wall sits, I'm pissed off at the player that's doing the TikTok dances because you're the reason why I'm here right now.
Yeah, this is the modern day version of the old story about the dad finding his son smoking cigs. And the next thing you know, he goes, you got to smoke the whole pack right now and go through it, like force you to do it in an uncomfortable way. And that has now just turned into, in the year 2025, Matt Rule found his guys doing TikTok dances, so now you're going to do them while you do
I'll give you another
sets.
one. It's I forget the player, but remember the Titans when the guy said he was thirsty, and then he said you guys are you're gonna do up downs until he's no longer thirsty.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, you want a TikTok? All right, well, you're gonna keep on TikToking until you don't want to do it
It
anymore.
was probably Petey. Petey was always complaining.
No, it wasn't Petey. It was one of the linemen. I forget who. I'll try to
Was
try
it
to
Lou?
figure that out.
Was it Lou Lastic?
But I am so pro Matt Rule, even though he, screwed over the Temple House and everything. But I'm so pro Matt Rule in this situation because the TikTok thing, I don't get it.
Yeah, you can do it on your own time. We're here to work.
Like, you could be the most impressive athlete in the world. As soon as I see some of these TikTok things, I'm not fearing you.
I don't know, man. If Jared McCain does that and then comes out and drops 25 on me, I'm like, man.
Just a quick bone to pick with the other host who's usually here, John Kincade. He came out into the hallway last week and he's like, who screwed up my TikTok algorithm? Now I'm seeing a bunch of people dancing. I'm like, John, it's your algorithm.
It's your algorithm, my man.
You pulled the Jason Whitlock with the Twitter exposing yourself with the ads.
Oh my God, that was a wild.
Yeah, that's
that was a wild story. All right, great job, Gunner. We appreciate it.
The one and only
Blue, by the way. Blue was the player. We're gonna do
Blue. Okay.
We're gonna do up downs until Blue is no longer tired and thirsty. It's the best movie. It's
Honestly,
the best
my favorite
sports movie cannot be beat.
Yes.
All right, coming up next, Jeff Mclean will join us to talk about the decision to part ways with Darius Slay for now. I just saw him put out a tweet. I'll be able to read that to you before we bring him up. It's Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released six-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion Darius Slay. The release will be designated a post-June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's by for now, there are reports out there that Slay and the Birds could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated on that front all offseason long, as well as anything else surrounding the Birds all offseason long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119-102. 2. They won't have much time to dwell on it as they're back in action tonight on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8 for that game. You can catch that game live right here on the Fanatic. Keith Pompey of The Inquirer joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said this year has been tougher on Sixers fans than any in recent memory, including the process.
And I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan.
And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can catch that game on our sister station, WMMR. This update was brought to you by the Electrical Workers Local 269 and the Electrical Training Alliance. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 269 will be accepting applications starting January 1st until March 31st at IBEW269.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Ricky Batalico.
Tuesday morning, Kincade and Salciunas. Connor in for John today and tomorrow. Johnny out for the week. Andrew DeCecco is going to be joining the entire show on Thursday, and Amy Fadul on Friday. But now we head to the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. Our man does a great job covering the Eagles for the Inquirer, Inquirer.com. You got to experience the new look of Inquirer Sports, where fans can read, watch, and listen to their favorite reporters and columnists. Go to Inquirer.com/sports, and that's where you can follow all the work of our man, Jeff Mclean. Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning.
So, Darius Slay is expected to be released, something that I don't think many people are surprised by. But I'll ask you right away, your feeling on the situation. Is it Darius Slay done with the Philadelphia Eagles, or do you think there's a legitimate shot that he is back next season?
I mean, I'd probably side more with not back, but I wouldn't rule it out. I guess it's probably going to come down to what kind of options he has and what he's willing to accept in terms of a contract. But my guess is, considering how he played this past year, especially in the postseason, there will be offers from other teams, and that could dictate where he wants to go. He has said that he really wants to only go to one of two places, either the Eagles or the Lions, where he started his career. So maybe that limits his options, and he looks around the landscape and says the best chance for him to win another Super Bowl and kind of go out a winner would be here in Philadelphia. But the Eagles are prepared to move on because they have a bunch of young guys that they've been developing. And, that may not mean that Kelly Ringo is the guy filling in for Darius Slay or Eli Ricks or maybe even Isaiah Rodgers if he returns. But I think they feel much more comfortable at that position, obviously because of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean than they did just a year ago.
Yeah, to follow up on that, so you think the replacement to Slay is more of an in-house option, or do you think Howie Roseman would also take a look at the market of other maybe veteran cornerbacks, or we've also seen him be an expert at the player that's on the final year of their rookie deal, bring them in for that final year, but do you think it's more in-house?
Right. I mean, I agree with you there. He could look elsewhere, but he's not going to pay a lot for a cornerback. I mean, he just invested, a first and second rounder on the position. And he's going to have to pay those guys at some point. So that is extremely unlikely. I think the only guy that maybe, the more likely option is, let's say, Isaiah Rodgers, who did well when he filled in at cornerback whenever Slay left. Maybe you can get him not for an expensive amount of money because, again, he really didn't play a full season. He's still young. Put him on the outside and keep Cooper and Quinyon where they are. I think there's also the option that Cooper at least starts on the outside in the base defense and then moves into the slot and nickel. But still, then you would still need an outside corner for about 85% of the other plays. And it could be Kelly Ringo. I mean, they like Ringo. This is a guy that they drafted out of Georgia. They developed him. He was basically the guy kind of starting at the outside spot in camp, or at least sharing it with the Rodgers when eventually they decided to just go with Mitchell and Slay out there.
So the Myles Garrett conversation continues to be part of the headlines surrounding the Eagles. What is your impression as we get deeper into the offseason of the possibility of that and just what you're hearing around that name?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I take Howie Roseman upon his word. About maybe 6 or 7 Philly reporters are out there in Indianapolis, and we spoke to Howie before he took the podium, and he kind of dodged didn't dodge, but he just didn't. He can't talk about another player, obviously, on our roster when he was asked directly about Myles Garrett on the podium. But we had talked to him earlier, and there was kind of a roundabout question about what it would take to get someone of Garrett's caliber and forfeit first and second round pick or 2 firsts or whatever it's going to take to get him. And Howie just said that we're not in a position to do that. And look, I mean, I think with Howie and big name players, you can never rule out the possibility. I just don't think that they're in the position to make a move for Garrett. I understand, there have been some reports out there and other teams around the league are not ruling out the Eagles because, Howie has pulled off some miraculous trades in the past and has gotten star players without it seemingly affecting the salary cap. But they got to pay Jalen Carter with what will be maybe the biggest contract ever for a defensive lineman in a year. And with Garrett, you have to sign him to an extension to bring him in. Why would you do anything otherwise? So I find it a reach to think that Garrett is in play.
So do you think this Eagles offseason would be more adding to the depth of this team? Obviously, they're going to have to acquire some starters in certain positions, but is it more so let's focus on this core that we have here now and we have to pay them down the road, and let's just add to the pieces because we know that we have a strong roster already?
Yeah, and Howie said that to us in Indianapolis. I think he was he's been known to do that, temper expectations a little bit, and I think he did a little bit of that last year. And they went and made some big moves. And nothing, crazy. When you look at the Barkley contract, it's not that exorbitant. But I don't know if they're going to even do like that. Because, again, you have to look at – they have a lot of free agents. They have 4 starters that are hitting the market. I think it's going to be hard. They want to bring Millie Williams back. They want to bring Josh Sweat back. They want to bring these guys back. Zach Bond, of course. And I think he'll be the priority of the 4. But it's just going to be hard, and again, as Howie said, they have done really well in the draft. He didn't say they did really well in the draft the last 4 years. It's pretty obvious, and you got to pay those guys, and you got to be prepared to pay those guys at some point. And you just can't. The best teams in the NFL don't use free agency. Don't have to use free agency as a fixer upper for what they for why they failed in the draft. And I think that, we've seen the template now, and they want to live by it based upon, building through the draft.
So today, speaking of paying guys, is franchise tag deadline day in the NFL. The Eagles haven't used theirs since 2012. What do you see are the chances of them using it this time around?
Yeah, they're not going to use it on anyone.
Is there a reason why? Is it like, what keeps the Eagles, what keeps Howie from doing it?
Using the tag?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess look at the numbers, right?
Right. I just there are teams that do it every single year almost as if they feel like they need to.
Right, and I think those are the teams that make mistakes.
Right.
And they get themselves in a situation where they have to use it. And how, he gets ahead of it. And signs guys and gets them to agree to deals, fairly early into, the rookie contracts or in someone's cases like A.J. Brown early into his second contract, so that they're not concerned about that. And I think ideally you're not using the franchise or transition tags.
Yeah, just a general NFL question real quick, Jeff, because it's something we brought up earlier on the show. The linebacker position has become super weird with the franchise tag situation because linebacker now applies to certain edge rushers whose salaries are much higher. Is the NFL aware of this issue and creating something around that, or do they just not care?
I haven't looked into it. It is bizarre because they're 2 totally different positions.
Yeah.
And those I don't vote for the AP poll, but I do vote for the PFWA and the year poll. And there's always that issue about what guys in end, which guys is a linebacker, who gets voted into what at what position. To me, there's edge rushers, edge defenders on the line, and then there's off-ball linebackers. And yeah, I don't understand why the NFL allows that to this day.
Jeff, you're the man. We appreciate the time as always. The league that never sleeps. It hasn't even been a month since the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and we're already talking about free agency. We appreciate the time as always.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Jeff Mclean on the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. A quick no to the Eagles franchise tagging anybody.
Yeah, no wiggle room on that one.
Yeah, no. They're
understood.
They're not
we weren't
it.
expecting them to anyway.
All right, so coming up next, we'll react to some of the things that Jeff Mclean had to say. Could there be a new look Eagles of 2025, or do they just kind of continue to build off of what they already have? That's kind of the sense that Jeff Mclean's getting, because Howie did say it, but there's one thing for a GM to say and then actually act on it. So we'll discuss that coming up next, what we truly think ends up happening with the Eagles this offseason. Don't forget, Amy Fadul joins us for the entire 9 o'clock hour. So will there be a new look Eagles? We get into next. Also your text messages. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Connor in for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatic's Knockout Tournament is back Wednesday, March 26th.
Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Connor filling in for John today and tomorrow. Johnny on vacation after he dropped his nuclear take last Friday. I need you to fake a text, or I need one of our listeners to text in John's first day back.
Oh, I'll just ask him. I wasn't there for headlines. We don't need to fake anything. I'll just be like, John, what do you just wanted to come Roy
up
Halladay and
I just
Allen
wanted
Iverson?
to come up naturally on the show on Monday.
Naturally is, dude, I question stuff that both of you say all the time. I'll just ask him. I'll be like, dude, we got to get into this.
Yeah, you question me incorrectly because I'm always right.
Yeah,
I understand why you question John, though. I totally, especially with this one. with
Mr. Perfect over here.
My
Andrew
brain
Salciunas.
feels empty.
All right, so the Eagles, for the most part, are going to retain a lot of their players. If I ask you, heart of heart, is Myles Garrett a Philadelphia Eagle in 2020?
No.
I don't believe so either. I would love for it to happen. I want it to happen. I hate John trying to be logical with it. Like, I do think there's a chance. Like, I don't think this reporting is just, like you heard Jeff say. Jeff said what every report in the world says. Oh, I mean, it's Howie, so, like, he'll be in on it. Like,
yeah, you never know, but...
Like, Diana Rossini last week was straight up saying, like, yeah, they're willing to let guys walk so they can try to get him. Now, everybody has different sources. Everybody has different insight. And some guys are closer to the team than maybe Diana Rossini is because Jeff's here every single day, right? There are local beats that know more than what the national beats do. Like, there are local reporters that know more about the Eagles than Adam Schefter does, right? It's just what it is. They're there every single day. But I wouldn't say that it's out of the question. But if you were to ask me, do I believe he makes it here? I don't. I don't believe that to be the case.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, am I going to marry a woman who is a doctor that moonlights as a supermodel? No.
Maybe.
Probably not. But if one came out and
You're
said...
Connor Thomas.
If one,
The one and only.
If one of those people existed and they came out and they said, oh, I would be interested in a Philadelphia sports fan, well, then I'm going to think about it a little bit. I'm going to believe that maybe in some world, but Myles Garrett is a pipe dream scenario. Now, it's one that there has been talk about, which is why we've been bringing it up.
By the way, what if that supermodel doctor was also a Philadelphia sports fan?
That'd be awesome. If you exist, 610-622-0975, say what's up.
The phone lines don't.
Text.
Oh.
But
let's go green.
No, the point is the Myles Garrett thing is not a likely scenario to work out in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's one that there is a possibility of, and there have been reports around, whether those are based in fact or based in conjecture because it's March, and we're going to continue to have that on the table as long as Howie Roseman's the GM of this team because he makes the impossible possible.
What about you, Gunnar? Do you think Myles Garrett is an Eagle?
No, I don't think so. Ultimately, I think they don't have the weapons to give up, the pieces to give up to get him. They'd have to get creative, and at that point, I don't know if Howie's willing to move off some of those young players. Like we talk about, would we give up Nolan Smith? I would. Would the team do that? I'm not too sure with the contracts coming down the pike. I would love for him to be here. I don't see him here.
Okay. Now, I find this interesting. NFL.com, speaking of, free agents, they did a deep dive into 10 players who could be misvalued in NFL free agency. Players who could be overpriced and players who could be underpriced. I'll give you the underpriced. Dre Greenlaw, which is a name to keep an eye on if the Zach Bond thing doesn't work out. Hassan Reddick for his own doing. Alaric Jackson, who was a tackle with the Rams, I believe, right? I think he was with the Rams
I want to
last
say
year.
West Coast team.
And then the players that are overpriced. Sam Darnold. Completely agree.
Yep.
Ronnie Stanley, I don't know. He's a tackle, and he had a great season. So, I don't know. Amari Cooper, I don't know what his price tag is.
Yeah, how is he
Who's paying Amari? Who's
overpriced?
paying Amari Cooper a lot of money at this point?
Unless the Bills are bringing him back, I don't know.
I don't know who's unless you're saying $10 is too much. I don't know. He barely.
Come on.
Well, he barely did anything with Buffalo. So
Yeah, does he even get a multi-year deal, more than 2 years? I don't see a team giving him some big contract.
I don't see that. Plus, he's made a lot of money in his career. So if you're Amari Cooper, you're probably just happy to keep getting jobs. Najee Harris, completely agree. I think Najee Harris is one of the most overrated running backs in the NFL.
I'm not so sure.
All right.
I'm not so sure. The way Pittsburgh runs their offense is not very creative, and he hasn't had a exceptional quarterback. If he's in the right situation, I think he could be a plus NFL running back. I don't think he's Saquon. I don't think he's Derrick Henry. But
I think he is considered a physical back that's not that strong, and he's not that fast.
Yeah, no, he's being a free agent at the right time. I mean, Saquon Barkley just quote-unquote proved why you should pay running backs, but you should pay the right running back.
Well, and the free agent market is weak for running backs this year. And lastly, they have Milton Williams on here for overpaid, and I agree. I think they could also have Josh Sweat on this list, which they don't.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's Milton Williams and not Josh Sweat. I think the big thing is the Super Bowl and like the postseason run. Like Milton Williams really shined in the biggest moments. Not that Josh Sweat didn't, but Josh Sweat also has the regular season accolades. It's the Bryce Huff situation, right? You're going from a rotational piece to you're going to get paid to be the guy. And sometimes that doesn't work out for dudes that have not been the guy yet.
Look, they're going to get the money, so good for them. I'm happy for them. But there will be a team that will overpay Milton Williams. There will be a team that overpays Josh.
He's not next to Jalen Carter anymore.
Exactly.
Yes. No, he deserves to get paid. Like, the team that pays him, he will have earned that money, but will he play up to it is what we're talking about, and it's hard to project.
Unless he's with the right group. Like, look, I saw Javon Hargrave get paid, and he went to what I thought was a right spot.
Now, if
he's been a non-factor in San Francisco.
Right, like if Milton Williams goes to the Rams, for example, and he's got Jared Verse and Braden Fisk on the outside.
Right, then he's in a good spot.
Exactly. So it depends on the landing spot.
Right, exactly. All right, what do we have on the text line, Gunner? At 610-632-0975. Don't forget, Amy Fadul joins us beginning next segment for the rest of the show.
Yeah, we got somebody else checking in, and they don't agree with the Embiid being underrated thing. They said he played 482 games in his career. He's missed 400. He's not underrated. He's underperformed.
Underappreciated.
Yep, they did get it wrong.
Underappreciated. He is an MVP, a two-time runner-up, and you would think that he's done nothing. Now, I get it. Championships is what a lot of people want. So, in the end, if he retires or goes elsewhere and the Sixers never win a title with Joel Embiid, the whole tenure is underperformed.
Exactly.
The whole tenure is they didn't reach any sort of level that we thought they would. He was supposed to be the guy that got you out of the second round. What I'm saying is I watched him put up numbers that I've never seen in my life in a Sixers uniform, more so than Allen Iverson, and we just kind of act like he was a waste of time.
Yeah, there's going to be a day where a lot of rational fans who are on the anti-side of the Joel Embiid thing right now will look back at this time and say, man, I do miss watching that guy play basketball in this city.
He is still alive, a 7-foot-tall center that can play like Kevin Durant on the wing, but oh, by the way, he's an extra 100 pounds, so he can be a beast. And he shoots free throws, and he does everything except stay healthy.
Yeah, some people treat the fact that he gets injured often like it turns him into Jahlil Okafor.
Yeah.
And he's not that guy.
No, he's an MVP in the NBA. All right, Amy Fadul joins us for the rest of the show starting next segment. We have a lot of topics to still get into, including the automatic strike zone, because I saw something yesterday that makes me think we're going to hate it. Also, Cam Jurgens, we know his legendary status. He spoke about playing through his back injury that required surgery after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So we still have a lot in store for you for the final hour of the show. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released six-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is going to be designated a June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's by for now, there are reports out there that Slay and the Birds could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated on that front and everything surrounding the Birds all offseason long. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119 to 102. They are not going to have much time to dwell on it. They're back in action tonight on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8. You can listen to that game live right here on The Fanatic. And Keith Pompey, he joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said this year has been tougher on Sixers fans than any in recent memory, including the process.
I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan.
And the Flyers, they host the Calgary Flames tonight. Puck drops at 7. You can hear that game live on our sister station, WMMR. This update was brought to you by Groundworks. Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection today at groundworks.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We are continuing to bask in the glory of what the Eagles did, even though you blinked and nobody cares about the Super Bowl anymore. It's time to start talking about next season already. And joining us for the rest of the show, as she does most Tuesdays, Amy Fadul from NBC Sports Philadelphia and here at the Fanatic. Amy, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Are you ready to talk about 2025 Eagles already?
Absolutely. I was listening to Jeff on the way in, so he was making some very salient points, as he always does. But
Season's over. That Super Bowl thing, old
I just
news.
love how we have, there's the legal tampering period, which is just such an anomaly.
Yes.
Such a weird phrasing, but that's coming up, and it's like no one cares anymore.
And all the
we were locked
tampering's
in on the
already
combine.
happening.
We were at Hershey Lodge this weekend, and my son was absolutely locked in on the combine to the point where it's like, "Do you want to go to the pool?" Wow, Mom, I don't know. DBs are coming up to run the 40.
I give your son a lot of credit.
That's true. He's zoned in.
All right. And then Harrison came up, who's the kid from Kentucky that ran the 4.28, and I was like, "Oh, look where this guy's from."
Have you ever had like the Mike Mamula conversation with your son, or the John Ross conversation with your son?
It's so funny because they were talking about how fast Harrison's going to run, and he was like, "Well, Mom, John Ross was really fast too, and it doesn't always translate."
That's good work by him. All right.
Mom. Yeah, I got that, fella. I would know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Hey, John Ross, Super Bowl champion of your Philadelphia
That's
Eagles.
true.
Let's put some respect on the guy's name.
That's true. Yeah, so he is aware that you could have a camp darling as well as a combine darling.
He knows the
How
Paul
old is
Turner
he?
legend.
10.
Does he still surprise you, or
Yes.
are you okay? So you're still surprised by his
Still
knowledge
surprised.
sometimes.
Still surprised because he'll pull guys. He plays a lot of like Madden and things
Yeah.
like that. Now he plays NCAA college. So he knows all these guys. He just is always surprised that I know them, which is insulting.
Hey, he could be the next GM of the New York Jets if he keeps up with the Madden stuff.
Right
Could
now.
be.
Right
He's
now.
qualified.
Or
Or
he
the
could be
Giants.
or the Giants,
Yeah. That
who
too.
ended Hard Knocks, which I find hilarious. You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Connor Thomas is in for John for the next couple of days. Amy is in for her hour hit today, but you're going to be with me on Friday for the
That's right.
entire
Looking
show,
forward
which I'm
to it.
looking forward to as well. So today we've been talking a lot about Darius Slay because that's the big news in Philadelphia right now. That's not as depressing as what the Sixers are providing for us in terms of news. But Darius Slay looks like he's going to be released, and I don't get the sense that he's coming back this time. The last time they did this, I thought, all right, they're just going to find a way to restructure his contract. He'll be back. I'm not getting that sense this time around. No reporting. No, I'm not doing any digging on this. I just get that feeling. He's going to be 34, and this team has a young core and was exceptional. Now, I'll ask you, this is one of our topics today. Are you okay with the Eagles continuing to get younger? Because it looks like that might be the route that they go when they just won the Super Bowl and they have a window right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fine with it. And the reason I also think that he's not coming back is the first thing you hear, Darius Slay expected to be released after June 1st, the designation. It saves $4 million in cap space.
Yep.
That right there, it lets you everything that I think you need to know as far as how this is going to go. And ideally, you could maybe bring him back on a very team-friendly deal. I do think he'll probably go back to the Lions. I know he's expressed a lot of interest, and they could use certainly some help in their defense and their secondary. And I hope that he does go somewhere that he can be appreciated, and if it's not here. But, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I go back to what Darius Slay said at the Eagles parade. He said, if Philadelphia's never had a shutdown corner, he said, now you guys have two, in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
That's him saying that.
Right.
He's kind of passing the torch, and I thought he did a really nice job. He was so touched when he was named captain, something he had never really been a part of, that kind of leadership of an NFL locker room. And that was in 2022, and I think that really kind of had a shift for him. You mentioned 34 years of age. I think he really was a good mentor, and I thought that was a big change on how he kind of used to operate. Not that he was a bad guy in the locker room. He always was a good guy in the locker room, but he was a me guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a cornerback.
Yeah.
That's how they are.
I mean,
That's how they are.
I mean, look, I hated the podcast, even though I know the players clearly doesn't bother them, the players.
Clearly.
But, like, I hated last year when they lost to the Niners
And he goes
two seasons
on.
ago.
Yeah.
I played fine.
Yeah,
It was the rest of the team that sucked. And, like, that kind of stuff bothers me. But he was once again voted to be captain, so clearly the players love him. I compared him to Harden earlier today. Name me the young player that doesn't love James Harden.
Oh, they all love James.
Every young player, and it's not
Which is
just
crazy because everybody's just like, no, get
everyone
that guy
thinks he's
away
a
from my
bad
locker
teammate,
room.
right? Exactly. But every young player loves him. It's not
Maxey
because
and he have a great
it's
relationship.
not because he gives them extra ones at the club, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, no, it's because he
Well, he
works.
might.
He might, but he works really well with them. Darius Slay kind of on the outside, I think the perception's a lot different than what's actually
Agreed.
going on the inside.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to compare him to somebody else here. This might not be fair to the predecessor to Darius Slay, not at the same position, but in the defensive backfield. On the field, because I know this guy that I'm about to bring up did a bunch of stuff off the field. An amazing guy, an amazing leader. He's more Malcolm Jenkins than he's not.
Wow.
Like, he was a big part of the past 5 years of this Eagles. Like, there were multiple transitions in that secondary where he was one of the mainstay leaders back there.
Oh, he's a solid locker room guy.
Absolutely. He takes care of his business as a captain. He does a lot of stuff for the team. He brings young players around. I think he's a culture setter for this team, or has been in his time here. Like, obviously, not the longevity that Malcolm Jenkins had in the city, and that dude, all the off-the-field stuff was amazing. But I think he held kind of that role in the post-Malcolm Jenkins era for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he doesn't get the same level of credit I think he deserves.
Yeah, because I think the perception is that he is a me-first type of guy, and I don't think that's who he is. I thought you saw a lot of growth with him and maturity outwardly. I think it's probably always been there, and we just didn't see it always. But this year, when he was bringing Quinyon Mitchell along, and then obviously Cooper DeJean after that, I thought for him to shout them out specifically, to say, hey, you guys, you're not used to having a shutdown corner, and now you have two of them. And I thought that really said a lot to me as far as if the Eagles are comfortable moving forward with the youth, here's a guy that's saying, absolutely, you're going to be fine.
And that's a credit to the franchise, too, because Fletcher Cox did it with Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Jason Kelsey obviously did it with Cam Jurgens, and now this. Now I want to run this by. So I put together a list of the players that come to my mind that I believe are underappreciated in the city, because I thought Darius Slay has been criminally underappreciated in this city. Now, there is a guy that still trumps Darius Slay when it comes to that, and it's the big man. I believe he's been extremely underappreciated.
People will be sad when he's not playing basketball.
Eventually.
They should be.
Yeah.
It'll take some people time.
There will be some people.
Me saying it, we've already gotten.
Oh, I already heard.
The amount of text.
They misheard you.
Yeah, underappreciated.
Underappreciated just means, I mean, listen, the guy rolled out of bed and can get you 30 points. He led the league in scoring 2 years in a row. Could have led it 3 years in a row.
Basketball knower Amy Fadul, everybody.
The year that he dropped 70, he said he was at 75%. He had just dropped 70 points and said, I'm not quite there. What?
Yeah.
I always go back to guys that know a lot more than me, like a Jim Lynam, a Mark Jackson, Sonny Hill even, and Jim Lynam is like, I've never seen anybody like him.
He calls him the modern day Wilt. I've heard him say that.
Jim saw Wilt play on the playground, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
Yeah, let's listen to ball knowers like Amy Fadul.
It's just, I get it, because you can't say Joel Embiid without having the...
I know.
He's injured.
Yeah, but he's going to be like, we brought up 5 earlier. He's going to be like Donovan McNabb, where we're at the point where we're the puke in the Super Bowl, never going to summit the hill, NFC championships, we can't get there.
That's a very good analogy.
And if you have that conversation in the late aughts, the conversation is, well, this guy will never get it done. And now when we talk about Jalen Hurts and where he stands in Eagles history, the conversation is McNabb is in that conversation as like greatest Eagles quarterback ever. We weren't having that conversation 10, 15 years ago because you were in the moment.
Yeah.
We'll get there with Joel.
Even after McNabb had left and you're mired in kind of mediocrity at the quarterback position for a couple of years, you still didn't have that conversation with Donovan because it was just too close, right? It was just, but he never did anything.
But look, up until Hurts won, it was McNabb's still the greatest of your franchise's history.
He's not there yet.
All right, so I put Embiid 1. I put Slay. I did write down Jalen Hurts, even though for now I think everybody loves him because he won Super Bowl MVP. But you just wait when the first interception's thrown. And then I put 3 members of the Phillies. I put Castellanos, underappreciated. He's been one of your more consistent players over the last 2 years. Attitude aside, right? Because I know a lot of people don't like it. I put JT Realmuto because he is exactly who I thought he was. He was never going to be a 30 home run hitter, and he manages that rotation, which is one of the best in baseball. 140 games a year. Obviously, last year he was hurt. And I put Nola. And I'm one of the people.
I think Nola needs to be way higher on your list.
I'm one of the people that probably underappreciates what Aaron Nola does. So Nola's on that list as well.
He needs to be up higher because he is the king of underappreciation. I was on with Ricky last week or week before, I can't remember when it was, and Ricky talked about the rotation.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's pretty stout. And people are like, no way, no. You know what you can count on for Aaron Nola? 30-plus starts every single year.
Yeah.
Every single year. What do you want out of pitching? Yeah, obviously you want a dominant guy, but you want consistency. You want a guy that you can trot out there every fifth day for the entire season. That's what Aaron Nola does.
And 3 out of 5 of those, if you look through it, are going to be plus starts.
6+ innings.
Yeah.
Quality starts.
Unbelievable. I've been fighting this Aaron Nola fight for years.
But because he doesn't have the flash or and he's always going to give up the home run, and I can guarantee it'll be in the first or second inning.
Yeah.
It's just a lock. It's just a lock in the decade.
And it's annoying.
It's out there. It is. Here's his home run. Usually they're solo shots, and that's fine. But because he doesn't have the stuff that Zach Wheeler does, and it's not super flashy, like what you saw from the early season last year from Ranger Suarez, it was like, Aaron Nola. Like, I don't know. Like, are you serious? 30+ starts every single season for his entire career?
And not Taijuan Walker starts where it's 6 earned runs.
The people can't appreciate a good front door 2-seamer anymore. This is my fight in baseball.
You're right, Connor. You're spot on. All right, Amy's going to be with us for the rest of the show today. We love that. You can text in at 610-632-0975. Speaking of baseball, I saw something yesterday that I think we're going to eventually end up despising. And it's the ability to challenge balls and strikes and then eventually the automatic strike zone. This is a fight that I will continue to fight. We're going to hate it. And I'll tell you why next. It is Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
My lineup has always been Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber. Castellanos.
question for you before we get into
Yes,
this
sir.
baseball thing. You're in the know with the NBA.
For sure. Try to be.
So yesterday, Chandler Parsons on the Run It Back show with Michelle Beadle and Lou Williams. Lou Willville. He was talking about how he talked to Embiid and how Embiid's considering the Kobe Bryant Germany injections. I'm trying to figure out where's Chandler Parsons and Embiid.
I saw that and I was like, how did that happen? What is that connection?
So we had one
Is he just like a
texter.
dude was just like, hey, how's it going?
What was the texter? What did they say, Brendan?
So Chandler Parsons played at Florida when Embiid was in high school down
the
there
Rock
in
School.
Florida. And so and Chandler Parsons apparently went to their practices while he was at Florida.
So maybe
it's a high
that's the
school
connection.
Those two places couldn't be further apart.
So then that report may be refuted. We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I have no idea where the Chandler Parsons, Joel Embiid connection. My only other thought is that he played for the Rockets when Morey was there.
Okay, so he started at Montverde, which is nowhere near Gainesville, but he did go to the Rock School, which is in Gainesville.
Right. Yeah, that's what the texter was
So-
saying, was at the Rock School.
I mean, okay.
It feels like a stretch, but who knows?
So 15 years ago, or 14 years ago, or whatever it was,
No, even
he
more.
went to a practice.
Right?
Come on.
No,
Okay, I'm
Embiid in high school?
No, so
Wasn't there that long.
Embiid's 31,
Yeah.
and he would have been 17.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah. All right, fair.
So 14 years ago.
Yeah, I don't do math.
Yeah, it's fine.
Maybe they play FIFA online together. It could be anything. The world's uber
I
connected
mean, that would
these
be
days.
quite the connection.
Well, I'm sorry. Here's where I got the math because Chandler Parsons was in Houston in 2011, so he wasn't going to Florida when he was with the Rockets. So this would have had to have been 2010, maybe even 2009. So even further back. How long was Parsons at Florida for?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Feels like we're looking
Here's
at Pepe
something that I
Sylvia.
haven't looked about. I mean, Chandler Parsons. There's something that I've literally never Googled.
Yes.
Chandler Parsons, anything.
That was like, I
Chandler
heard
Parsons.
2011 draft. So he was there until 2011.
Okay. Parsons, he's a gold medalist, isn't he? Didn't he play volleyball in the Olympics?
No.
That's Chase
yes.
Budinger.
Oh,
That's not
sorry.
him. I was like, he did not win anything.
I got to show my USA
missed it.
pride.
He was an honorable mention All-American. He was SEC Player of the Year in 2011.
There you go.
That's fun.
Chandler
for him.
Parsons.
There's your Chandler Parsons
And
pick.
he's tight with Joel Embiid, apparently.
For the one practice they had
Yeah, exactly.
14 years ago.
All right, so the balls and strikes, the automatic balls and strikes, when that eventually comes, right now they're testing out the ability to challenge balls and strikes in spring training with the major league players. So yesterday there was a game between the Mariners and Guardians, and it looked like it was J.P. Crawford who was up to bat, and he got called out looking, and he challenged it, and he ended up being wrong. It ended up being strike three. The seam of the baseball touched the box.
And this is like watching tennis.
And so, with my eyes, now credit the umpire. He made what was ended up being the correct call. My eyes, it looked like a ball. It was a curveball that, the whole rule of it's where it crosses, not where the catcher
Right.
catches it. It crossed high, but technically it was a strike. So have umpires always been kind of wrong? Yeah, we know that, but I feel like it's going to get to a point where if the slightest bit of the baseball crosses the
literally.
strike zone.
Like when you watch VAR and tennis, and it'll be like just tiny bit of the line.
And we're not talking about outside or inside. We're talking about up and down.
Yeah, any part of the box.
That's going to be hard for players to start figuring out. And I
And then
don't
are they
know.
thinking about that rather than
approach? Like I think it's gonna muck up the game a little bit.
Right. This is why the challenge system is a good thing, and fully going to this without actual human umpires to call the plays is not something that I want, because there are certain feel things in umpiring a baseball game or hitting a baseball where it's just like, yeah, okay, that backdoor slider, it probably got there, but where it came across, it didn't look like it. It didn't look like it was a reachable pitch. Like my feel on the way that this guy has been delivering pitches is that ball is outside. And that's just something that has existed in the history of baseball forever. And when you're starting to get ticky-tack with it, it changes the approach of hitting. It'll change the game.
Yeah.
This is where my sicko mind goes when it comes to stuff like this. Like, I understand they want the best practices for sports so that it's as real as possible. Honestly, I think gambling plays a huge role in this because umpires, you're making a call based off of what you think.
Right.
And so people are gambling on baseball, and if an umpire makes a strike 3 call when it looks like it's half an inch off
bet
the
on
black.
the pitcher to have X amount of strikes.
Right. So now I think a lot of this, and they won't say it, I think a lot of this has to do with gambling. That's where my sicko mind goes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and it kind of touches on what both of you guys are talking about, it is about feel. You know, when you're a batter, you go up and you've learned the ump calling the balls and strikes, you've learned his strike zone. Allegedly.
Hey,
and
he's calling him high.
And that's why the catcher usually gets so upset and just like, hey, you were calling it for that guy. You got to call it for us too. And so, which is fine. And I think everybody, when you watch the game, as long as he calls it the same both ways, you're fine with it because he's erring on this whatever. If he's erring on a high strike zone, as long as he calls it both ways, you're good with that. And then the players themselves, the batter in the box, he's learned that. It's about a feel of the game for both the pitcher, catcher, and the batter.
It's part of the beauty of baseball.
And it does take that kind of element out.
Right. Now, what's not part of the beauty of baseball is Angel Hernandez calling pitches right down the middle balls.
Now, he should just not be allowed to
the ball
umpire
5 inches
games.
outside.
Even though you're retired, but
there will be just some egregiously bad calls. We all mess up.
And that's fine.
Everybody. And that's why the challenge system is a nice thing. But like in the NBA, you can challenge foul calls. But if you had a review system where every single time there was marginal contact in what the rule book deems a foul,
right?
Like, that's not the spirit of the game.
No, the games would be 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, you might be like,
and we just sped up baseball. So let's not go backwards.
And it's funny, like, I know this is going to be so baseball, right? And so there's some people that don't care about it. Like, John is so in favor of the balls and strikes being called automatically by the box, right? I played catcher for like 12 years. I learned how to frame.
Yeah.
I learned
that's
how,
part
like,
of the art
that's
of it.
part of drills. We were watching, Connor and I, do you know it's a great story. Dennis Kasumba, who's from Uganda, who's trying to make it into baseball. We were watching video of him practicing his framework. And I'm like, you're wasting your time now, dude.
Yeah, which stinks.
There's no point. Like
that's like half of it.
You don't have to do that anymore. You just catch the ball where it crosses, wherever it crosses, because you don't have to frame anymore. You don't have to try to manipulate the computer. It's just where it crosses the plate. I think I'm going to end up hating it. I was in favor of the pitch clock.
I hope they treat it as just, all right, you get X amount of these
challenges,
and then we move on, like they do in the NBA.
You can't make the game too computerized.
Yeah, it's part of sports is the randomness of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the beauty. It may not be best for the accuracy of the officiating, but you know what it is best for? The product. It's an entertainment product, and it is less entertaining when everything's right.
See? I like this conversation.
The fun part about this show is we get stuff wrong all the time. Could you imagine if everything we said was correct?
Wait, it's not?
It'd be boring. Well, everything you say is correct,
that's
Amy.
not
And
true.
me. You're the one that...
Well, John, we know it's not true.
Did you hear the
I did. I can't. With the holiday and I just can't.
Can you talk about it next?
Yes, because it's something.
But we're trying to balance being fair because he's not here.
Well, sorry, you're not here. You're going to get buried.
Oh, all right. Amy will respond to John Kincade.
I just couldn't believe it.
My point of doing this is trying to keep the conversation going until he comes back.
Exactly, on Monday.
So that it's not like,
we can talk about it on Friday.
Why you bring up something old? Like, no.
We still talked about it.
It was such an impactful quote that it's still being talked about. Also, hear from Cam Jurgens next on what he went through in the Super Bowl. An amazing story and an Eagle legend. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Slay is released. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yesterday, the Eagles released 6-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion cornerback Darius Slay. The release is going to be designated a post-June 1st transaction, which will save the Eagles around $4.3 million against the salary cap. Although it's by for now, there are reports out there that Slay and the Birds could be reunited down the road. We'll keep you updated all show long, all day long, and all off-season long here on The Fanatic with everything surrounding the Birds. The Sixers, they fell to the Portland Trailblazers last night by a score of 119-102. They won't have much time to dwell on it as they're back in action tonight on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 8 for that game. You can listen to that live right here on The Fanatic. And yesterday, Keith Pompey from The Inquirer joined the Mike Missanelli show and said this year has been tougher on Sixers fans than any in recent memory, including the process.
I would say that from my standpoint, not just covering it, I think that this year is worse than the process season. Good for a reporter, but worse in the standpoint of being a fan
And the Flyers, they take the ice again tonight. They're hosting the Calgary Flames. Puck drops at 7, and you can hear that game live on our sister station, WMMR. This update was brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew Texaco.
Howie Roseman pinpointed Zach Vaughn.
Fanatics here on Kincade Salciunas. Connor in for John today. Amy in with us for the entire hour, rest of the show. By the way, don't forget Wednesday, March 26th. So 22 days from now, we have our annual knockout tournament following a Sixers game. Sixers are going to be battling the Wizards that day. And then, of course, after the game, we have knockout. So each show every day will give out a keyword. And it's not like a call to action. You have to do it this minute. But at some point, when you have the second to do it, go to 975thefanatic.com, go to the contest page, and enter the keyword HOOPS, HOOPS. That's HOOPS. And we'll select winners by the end of the day from each show that will win a pair of tickets to see the Sixers take on the Wizards. And then, of course, somebody will get to play knockout on the court afterward, which is always a lot of fun despite how things are going. By the way, the knockout tournament started back in the process days. I'm just saying, yeah. So
because it was like a tryout.
Back then, very well could have been.
I mean,
so
Ish Smith wasn't getting any younger. So
absolutely.
So
Henry Sims.
You remember Scott O'Neal?
Absolutely.
It was one of the first knockouts. It was either the first or second. I was very young here in the business, right? I knew nobody other than players' faces and then who I worked with. So there was a day, it was knockout day, and I'm in line with this guy, and we're talking about knockout. I go, yeah, dude, there's probably like half of these guys that are better than players on this team.
No, you didn't. No.
Didn't know it was Scott O'Neal.
Oh, no.
So, because Scott played with us. So he wasn't, he wasn't in his suit. He was in like a Sixers shirt.
And he can play.
He can.
Yeah.
And he just looked like a normal,
Well, he's a normal guy.
And so one of our coworkers, I forget who it was, somebody went up, Scott, hey, how you doing? I was like, oh my God, it's Scott O'Neal.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It happens. I found a different place in line. I was like, oh, hey.
I forgot my water bottle. See you guys in a minute.
If you want to have one of those experiences, you can sign up and try and win tickets. We have our winner from yesterday.
What do we have?
Our winner yesterday for knockout competition is Joe Pecora from Morton, PA. So, Joe, we'll see you on the 26th.
Can't wait. Congratulations, Joe. All right, let's play the Cam Jurgens audio first, and then we'll have fun with what John Kincade had to say on Friday. Cam Jurgens was on with John Clark from NBC, and he did the Taking Off podcast. And Cam Jurgens has quickly become a legend in Philadelphia because he played with a back injury in the Super Bowl that required surgery after the season came to an end. Here was John Clark talking with the Eagles center about what he had to go through leading up to the Super Bowl, playing in the Super Bowl, and then obviously the aftermath with the injury.
Man, it took a lot of hope. Took a lot of hope that we were going to go to the Super Bowl and win it. It was just tough, getting through the playoffs and just feeling all that nerve pain. I mean, nerve pain with your back is, different. It's just hard to, really rehab and do anything about that when you just got something pushing on a nerve. And, the procedure kind of took care of that and helped it a ton. So when you're just playing through it, it's just kind of hard to function. It's hard to go throughout your day when you got that nerve pain, And so being able to play, I don't really know how that happened, but, it's when you're thinking about Super Bowl, you put your body on the line. It doesn't really matter. That's what I'm saying. It was all worth it in the end. It doesn't really matter what happens. It's just, if you can get out there and make a difference, you're gonna do it.
I can tell you how part of it happened. Tore it all and a lot of heat on the back.
Heat nice.
That helped. But still, an absolute legend for Cam Jurgens. I mean, he reaches legendary status.
Try to go. And I thought, oh, my God, he just tried to bend down in warm-ups. And I thought, there's no way. And then he had to go because Landon Dickerson got hurt.
Right. This is the championship game. Yeah.
It was like, every person, if you've ever had any kind of injury, watching him try to, bend down and the pace of which he was doing it, which was ungodly slow, you could just feel it. You're like, that is not good. And then he had to go in.
Yeah, let me just tell you a normal person story real quick. Last year, I threw my back out doing laundry. And I was I laid on the floor for 6 hours. I couldn't walk right for a week.
It.
Yeah.
You just thought, well, this is it. This is where I'm going to live now.
And he played in the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
And the NFC Championship
game. When he couldn't go earlier.
Yeah.
That's the unbelievable stuff they go through.
He's become a legend. How about it? Back-to-back centers.
You have a torn tricep? Yeah, I'm going to play.
Yeah, Nolan Smith. It's unbelievable what that team went through. And they won and dominated.
We were also like, they're so healthy.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, kind of.
Relatively. NFL healthy.
They were at least able to play.
It's like California sober. It's not quite, but.
All right, so we reacted to that audio. Now there's another bit of audio to react to. So you did see this. on social media.
I did see it.
But we would like
I had
to
to pause and watch it again.
We would like to give you the opportunity to react to it on the air. And again, we're trying to be as fair as possible because John is not here. But it's not my fault that he dropped a nuclear take on a Friday right before he leaves for vacation. For the context, in case people were wondering, John and I seem to always disagree when it comes to our usage of certain words, of elite, of contender. Like last week, our debate, Amy, was whether or not the Sixers have ever been a contender with Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Could they ever be a contender with Joel Embiid?
No, were they ever?
What was 2019?
Well, John says no because they never made it to the final 4 teams in the NBA.
No, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
a bounce away from this.
Yes.
Whatever.
Well,
So, but that's his.
Okay.
That's his usage of the term. Everybody has differences when it comes to it. So I then asked him about other words that he doesn't like that people just use willy nilly, and elite was one of them. And so I then asked him, all right, well, who are your elite Philadelphia athletes of all time? And he gave a couple of names, and then he, on his own right, decided to give names that he does not believe are considered elite Philadelphia athletes. If you missed it yesterday or didn't see it on social media on Friday or over the weekend, take a listen to who John Kincade had to say.
I'm going to tell you, this is going to be blasphemy to you.
Okay.
Roy Halladay's on the wall of fame for the Phillies. He ain't in the elite athletes of Philadelphia for me.
How can you say that? He won a damn Cy Young. He threw a perfect game, and he threw nobody in the playoffs.
He did.
That's one of the worst things you've ever seen in your life.
First of all, the tenure this short. Can't do it.
I would rather you curse in my face and call me a
we can do
bitch
that.
before you say that.
Question 5, I call you a bitch. Is it? No, it has to be, it involves tenure, it involves consistency, it involves excellence. Like to me, it's got to be there. I'm going to annoy the hell out of you with this one. I'm going to annoy the hell out of you with this one. Julius Erving is there. Another guy that you idolize is not. There's a certain guy that you idolize.
Don't tell me Iverson is not.
It's a short window of time. A guy who didn't take his craft seriously. A guy, no, absolutely not. We disagree on this one. He's not. I'm not going to put him at the same level. Someone who took their career seriously. I'm just not doing it.
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
Yeah, maybe he was drinking already first.
Should have been.
He was heading to vacation.
Your thoughts?
The Roy Halladay one, I have so much to unpack there. But I had real beef when he said Roy Halladay because that just shows me that he was never in the clubhouse when Roy Halladay pitched or when he didn't pitch. Roy Halladay would pitch 9 innings, then go and work out.
Yep.
Would run the steps and go to the gym inside Citizens Bank Park and work out after he went 9 innings and struck out 10.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
He was an absolute workhorse robot.
Yeah.
Like that to say he's not. And also the definition of elite has nothing to do with longevity.
No.
If that's the case, LeBron James would be the most elite of the elites because he's had the longest, prime of anybody.
Right.
But it's and then Allen Iverson, that is just so dismissive of what Allen Iverson was. If you ask any player in the NBA of a certain age, even some that aren't, because I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is very, very high on AI as well, they'll say pound for pound, certainly height-wise, the greatest player they ever saw was Allen Iverson. That's who they wanted to model their game after.
Yeah.
LeBron James talks about it. Steph Curry talks about it. So stop saying that those guys aren't elite. I feel like elite took on a negative connotation with that Joe Flacco nonsense years and years and years ago. Right?
Probably, yeah.
Like, oh, he's not elite. Whatever. The guy won a Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't get tossed around too much? Sure. There's some guys that you call elite that probably aren't. But to say Roy Halladay isn't elite, stop it.
Well, here's the thing, right? Because the framing of the conversation, I can kind of understand, like if I'm looking through a funhouse mirror, the Roy Halladay thing.
Because there's 2 elite seasons.
If your argument is that his time, because it's elite Philadelphia athlete, he wasn't here long enough. But guess what? Your argument collapses in on itself when you go to a guy that's one of the biggest icons in the history of the city's sports scene, in Allen Iverson. It doesn't add up.
And also, was Roy Halladay not elite before? Was he?
No, but it was more. It was like a Philadelphia.
Guy.
Like if you're doing the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame,
Philadelphia athlete.
That's the one I don't get even more. And he says the whole somebody that didn't take their craft seriously. Look, I get it. We've heard all the stories about hula hands and
yet he was still able to do what he did.
Well, right, exactly. So as detrimental as he was to his career, he
did it not even trying.
Exactly.
Led the league in scoring 4 times with the Sixers. Led the league in minutes played for the Sixers 5 times.
Single-handedly dragged a Sixers squad to the finals.
Yeah, that one.
In 7 games over the Raptors.
That one I didn't understand.
Next up, why Brian Dawkins stinks.
Exactly.
Well, that's what Andrew DeCecco said. No, he said Malcolm Jenkins could be considered the better safety.
Ooh.
Andrew DeCecco does the
Could.
entire show on Thursday.
Enjoy that.
All right, we have the Key 3 coming up next segment. Also, we'll check some of your text messages. What are the people saying to Amy Fadul and company? We'll get into that coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I don't understand the sentiment of.
up around 9:48. Very specific, the timing of the Key 3. We'll check our text line here momentarily, but I got a little bit of news for you. A story that was reported on, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago ended up being incorrect.
So they are going to the White House. We knew it.
The New York Giants have officially killed Hard Knocks. Bill Belichick and the UNC Tar Heels did not agree on a off-season Hard Knock.
No, I would have absolutely watched that.
I would have too.
I would have just
see
watched
what bars he goes
just the
to.
backstory of him showing up with all of his rings.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I want to know. How did that come to be? What decision did you make? Where are they? Did you think I'm dressed? Wait, hold on. Let me put all of these on.
Yeah.
I'd never take them off. Like, if I ever won a Super Bowl, I would wear that like
He's
a wedding
got like
ring.
9 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd wear them all.
You're
if
running
I
out of
win 11,
fingers,
I'm going
man.
on the toes. You're going to
Bill
know
Russell?
how many Super Bowls I won.
I give Barrett Brooks a hard time, especially during playoffs. I'm like, dude, you got to rock that thing. Bring out your Super Bowl ring.
Hell yeah.
He's like, I was like, what? I would wear it every
You're
day.
a Super Bowl champion.
Every day. And I would wear it here, right next to my face.
Yeah, for everyone to see.
All the people who are humble about it are the ones that deserve to win it, and all the ones who wish they
That's
had
like
it.
Bill Belichick. I was like, what happened in your life that you thought, you know what, this is the day? You guys didn't want me in the NFL? Boom.
I'm going to UNC.
Yep, and I'm going to
Crying
wear all
out
my
loud.
rings
Yeah.
at all times.
But that's amazing. The New York Giants officially killed Hard Knocks.
No team is ever going to do this again. And that was before Saquon really had even done. I mean, he started well, but you thought no one is ever going to do that.
Well, they came off
Ever.
so poorly because the way they talked about Saquon and the phone call that Saquon had no idea he was being recorded rubbed him the wrong way. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams like...
How about the kids being like, well, here's what I would do?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
It was-
well, maybe you should have listened.
And look, football teams, more often than not, make bad decisions, right? Like,
Right, it happens
We've all
to everyone.
seen like
Yeah.
the draft rooms where you see the behind the scenes. And,
Yeah, and people hate looking dumb.
There's probably
They
a
do.
clip of Howie Roseman saying, I think Bryce Huff can be Hassan Reddick.
Well, listen, we
Right.
all remember the Vikings face when Justin Jefferson fell to them.
Yeah.
We had to live with that for years.
Yeah, they laughed.
Of course they did. Of course they did, because he's not Jalen Reagor. Stop it. Of course they laughed.
Yeah,
I would have laughed.
Here's what we'll do. HBO has Hard Knocks, right?
Yes.
Come talk to us at the Fanatic. We'll do a Fanatic Hard Knocks. We'll go behind the scenes and talk to him about everything. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Day-to-day life. We
No.
can hear John Kincaid's takes off the air
No.
more often.
I mean, I can't imagine anything I'd want to watch less than what we do in our, what
You'd
we
be
do
a
in our
part
off
of
time.
it. You'd be a part of it, though.
The people
The thing
want to
is,
know
like,
about Amy
The
Fuel.
reason we talk as freely as we do off mic is because we know there's no one watching.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a fair point.
All right, what do we have on the text line, Gunner? What are the people saying? And then we got our key three coming up in about 4 minutes.
Yeah, we got a couple texts left, and we got a question for Amy on it regarding the Phillies broadcast.
Yeah.
So I'll get to that in a second.
Oh,
but,
I know it's going to be about the graphics.
It is.
I
It
knew
is.
it. I get this all the time.
It is.
People hate the new graphics.
Bring us our poop game.
I'll start with that. I already went there. So somebody checked in with Amy last summer, said, how come on Thursdays they don't have the throwback logo up there on the TV?
Right.
This year we all know they redid the graphics
Yes.
on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Is there any insider information about the graphics for
So last
throwback
summer, I
games?
remember because if you know when they do Friday City Connect, they change all the logos to City Connect, and then Thursdays when they do the powder blue, and they wanted the powder blue. So I actually brought that up because I thought it was a great idea. Who doesn't love a good powder blue logo with the maroon? Beautiful, brilliant. I said, well, that's not in the graphics package. We're going to be changing our graphics package, which is what I found out last summer.
Yeah.
Little did I know the new graphics package would no longer feature the poop game.
Poop.
Or Coop or anything else fun that we've had.
I was a big fan of the Coop game.
Well, of course you are.
Disappointed.
And yes, so it's very sad that the poop is gone, that the new logos are not up there. It's not even logos. It's just this shortened.
Now, maybe the poop game was a bad omen for the Philadelphia Phillies in the postseason. Maybe you needed to move on. They were running it back with the roster.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
What's going to get them over the hump,
Yeah.
obviously, is the graphics on the
Because you
broadcast.
obviously have
Change the lineup,
to you
change the
obviously,
graphics.
you obviously have to worry about the Pirates in the playoffs.
Yeah,
of
they're
course.
very
Paul Skeens,
dangerous.
you never know.
Paulski.
What else we got?
We got somebody checking in, Aubrey checking in, as a matter of fact. The reason people may not show love to Slay is he has made some comments in the past that made his team look, he threw his team under the bus or he appeared selfish.
Okay, and
Yeah, that's the podcast.
I
Yeah.
agree. I hated it, but I keep on going back to it. It's one thing for me to hate it. If the players don't mind and they vote for him to be captain, Sirianni didn't
Several
just
years.
name him captain.
2022.
They voted for him to be captain. You hear the stories of his leadership with the young guys like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Then why would you still hang on to that? Not saying that texter is, but I've moved past it. When I found out that the players don't give a damn and it doesn't bother them and it didn't lead to any fights in the locker room, then what do I care?
If the players are good with it, that's
Yeah.
really. But I get it. I think that was the outside perception because you did hear him say things that were very me-oriented.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously he's a team guy, and I think he saw that even outwardly more this year than you had in the past. But he was a 3-year captain.
Yeah, so I brought this up earlier when we were talking about the underappreciated list, and I talked about the personality playing a bigger part of the conversation here in Philadelphia than a lot of other places. I said it's probably like 60% talent, 40% personality and how it fits with the city here,
Culture, yeah.
where it should be like maybe 85, 90%.
Yeah.
Because you look at the guys on the list, Castellanos, Hurts, Embiid, Slay, they have different personalities to the point of either like Slay talks a lot about things that maybe he shouldn't or people wish he wouldn't. Embiid doesn't talk about anything. Hurts is a robot. Nick Castellanos is aloof. I just think that this city, the way that we consume our sports, we make too much of a determination on the personality of a player when we maybe should focus more on their ability to play the sport.
Yeah, we need them to be a certain way.
Right. And that's
The
just how
one
it
of us
always will
type
be.
of vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I always
which
said,
is-
I don't care if I
which is
don't like
fine.
the person. Just play good.
Yeah. Put up
Win.
runs, put up points,
Yeah.
strike them out, whatever it is you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's all.
how you can be my guy.
That's all I need. A real quick before we get to the key three. Did you have any reaction when Deebo Samuel was moved to the Commanders?
Yeah, I thought, really? Yeah.
Like, you don't like
Thank
it
you.
either.
Thank you.
I laugh.
It's nice to have someone in here with a brain. I've been dealing with Salciunas all
I
week.
think he's
Why,
going to
you think
be
he's washed?
Yeah, I think he's going to be irrelevant.
Listen,
Deebo
if
Samuel
I'm-
stinks is the direct quote.
Yes.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah, I do think he
That's
stinks. I
gonna-
think he's completely
Did
overrated.
we get that? Did we record that?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
We're going to have it.
I just saw a quote
It's a
from...
nice blanket for Jaden Daniels to have.
Well,
Real
I just,
nice
I
blanket.
just saw a quote from Emmanuel Acho.
Oh, okay.
And so now this is how you guys know you're wrong.
Okay, well,
Wow.
this is not good. This is not
Deebo
good.
Samuel will make Jaden Daniels the best quarterback in the
Okay, well,
NFC.
I'm not going to. There's no hyperbole. We're not saying he's going to be. I think he's going to help. It's nice to have that guy out there.
My argument was
the best
like,
quarterback. Stop.
there was a way this Washington offseason with all the pieces that they're going to have to move around goes terribly.
They're all 1-year contracts down there.
Right. So the more talented players, even if they're not what they used to be, the more talented players in this conference or in this division is worse for the Eagles. Deebo could have gone somewhere else. They could have gotten a lesser wide receiver. He's not the worst guy in the NFL.
Oh gosh, no.
He stinks.
You're going to regret that
Yeah,
one.
I at least I'll say I knew you win.
Yeah.
I remember that day.
All right. I can't wait. March 4th, 2025. It's time now for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
I think Darius Slay has been an exceptional Eagle. I will not run and hide from my opinion of hating the podcast. Clearly, the players didn't mind it. I just thought it was too much, especially last year when he was playing okay. The defense was not. Now, clearly, it doesn't rub players the wrong way if he's then voted to be a captain again the following season, the season they end up winning the Super Bowl. But other than that, the stories that you actually hear is how great of a leader he is, how great he was with the young corners in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, also Keely Ringo. Very much James Harden-esque, where a young player says nothing but good things, even though on the outside the perception is, oh man, James Harden, he can't be that good of a teammate. All he wants to do is go to strip clubs. The young players love him. Same with Darius Slay. Every young player speaks glowingly of Darius Slay. He's a Super Bowl champion. So in my eyes, he is a great Eagle. Is he a legendary Eagle? No. But he's a great Eagle and a guy that I thought was consistently good ever since they acquired him years back.
I mean, I'd probably side more with like not back, but I just wouldn't rule it out. I guess it's probably going to come down to what kind of options he has and what he's willing to accept in terms of a contract. But my guess is, considering how he played this past year, especially in the postseason, will be offers from other teams, and that could dictate where he wants to go. He has said that, he really wants to only go to one of two places, either the Eagles or the Lions, where he started his career. So maybe that limits his options, and he looks around the landscape and says the best chance for him to win another Super Bowl and kind of go out a winner would be here in Philadelphia. But the Eagles are prepared to move on because they have a bunch of young guys that they've been developing. That may not mean that Keely Ringo is the guy filling in for Darius Slay or Eli Ricks or maybe even Isaiah Rodgers if he returns. But I think they feel much more comfortable at that position because of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean than they did just a year ago.
I can't believe that a league like the NFL that does so many things well about creating this competitive balance has let this slide. The linebacker franchise tag number this year is sitting at 25 $6.4 million.
Second highest out of all the positions. Quarterback's number one, then it's linebacker.
And the problem with that is true linebackers are not paid that much. But there are linebackers that are now also considered edge rushers. And because edge rushers are a more premium position in the modern NFL, those guys get paid more. And when you get a guy like Zach Bond that's a true Mike linebacker, you can't franchise tag. You literally can't because the number is too
it'd be
high.
stupid. You know why he also doesn't have many opportunities to intercept passes? They don't throw his way. He's been spectacular. And I'm sorry to do like a Darius Slay, like the Swan Song show here, but I thought he was really good. I would love for him to come back. It would be a one-year deal. He wants to play one more year. So it's not like you're signing him to a 2 or 3 year deal. He wants to play one more season. I would welcome him back in a heartbeat as long as it is cap-friendly. I think fans in the city have severely underrated Darius Slay. And there were still people yesterday when the news came out that were like, all right, see you later. It's like, really?
There were trends of like, okay, this guy's old. And that happens to everybody.
Yeah,
nobody beats Father Time. But the Eagles have been a pretty talented organization since he's been here. I think we're going to see this a lot with guys where there are just so many talented players on this team. There are some great guys that get almost lost in the shuffle. I was just thinking, where's Darius Slay as a top X player from this past Super Bowl team? And I don't know that I could make an argument he's outside the top 10.
All right, that's the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. That last part that you just had there, Connor, what was it exactly? It was Darius Slay wasn't even top 10 player on the team this year, which shows how amazing this team was.
Right. It's not a knock on Darius Slay, but my point is with the underappreciation comments, we're going to have guys that leave this team this year, next year, that you say, oh, okay, that's not that big of a deal. It's not because of the talent of that player. It's because of the talent of the roster. You miss great players less when you have elite players around them. Sorry, I don't know if I should use the elite word because that's a dangerous topic these days. But it's not a knock on Slay. I don't know that he's a top 10 player individually on that team from last year. And
yeah, no, not when you think about at positions. You know, listen, Quinyon Mitchell, people wouldn't even go to his side
exactly
for whole games.
And Slay's awesome.
And
so
he's
it's
great.
It shows you how the Eagles are going to be fine.
He's a very good player last year.
I said to Andrew, this conversation with the Eagles, whatever path you're picking for this offseason, is like choosing between red and green on your Lamborghini. Like, either way,
it's all good.
They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's all gravy at this point.
I go red, though.
I'm green.
See, red is going to get you pulled over more.
I know,
That's what Brendan Gunn said.
I know, but
red is
I want my car looking good. If you're going, if I have a Lambo,
I mean,
that
I'd
means
probably go purple, really. I think that's like a power color.
Ooh, I like that.
Whose car was it? Kelly's?
Kelly Oubre's, yeah. Purple. He loves purple.
But, like, just the anime characters all over, like...
Yeah. Tsunami.
I don't have money.
Yeah.
You know, I have my black Honda Civic that has, like, scratches and a flat tire since November.
That seems like that would be a
I
problem.
suit you, though.
Twice a week, I go fill it up with air.
You should get the Fix-A-Flat.
I tried it. Didn't really do anything.
Oh, didn't fix the flat.
No, it did not.
You could also get, like, I don't know, a new tire.
I could, but that
sell
would
those.
mean money.
A lot of places.
Wawa
True.
has free air.
Hey, turn around real quick
if
for
it's
me.
free, it's me.
Is that your name up there on the show? Come on, buy yourself a damn tire.
You think that does anything for me?
It's his second name, though. So.
Yeah, but it's second.
Tell us about life-saving cancer research, please,
right.
Connor.
Remember to support life-saving cancer research. Join me and our generous partner, Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors, in making a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Cancer research saves lives.
Amy, thank you as always.
Thank you. I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, Friday you'll be doing the entire show because Connor's got to go do a golf trip.
I got to play golf
with the boys.
It's required.
So, Amy, thank you, and we'll see you again on Friday. Connor, Brendan, great job as always. We'll be back at it tomorrow.